Good evening, all. Welcome to this week's Midweek Geek. I have with me Sean, otherwise known as Mage's Musings, and we have a few people in chat lurking. My Discord is pinging at me, so that was Gene sending me a message. Right. So hello, Jeff. Hello, Brian. Hello, me testing things. Hello, Halakar. And there's Mage. We have Gene there, and Omanal, and Lee Baker, and Halakar, and Ian McDonald down the bottom. Hello, people. How are you doing? Before I do want to start, I do want to raise a glass to Janelle Joquez, who sadly passed away today, I believe. One of the names in terms of module design in the early days, and also design credits on Quake 2, Quake 3, Age of Empires. That's some design chops. So rest in peace, Janelle. Thank you for everything you did. Right. Hello, Andy. Hello, Imar. Diet Mountain you up. Indeed, Halakar. Indeed. Any games recently, Sean?
Well, we're back to Night Below officially. The group convened on Saturday. One of the players backed out last minute because he was sick, but he'll rejoin next session. And yeah, so it was an hour and a half of catching up because it had been 3 months, and it's a whole new group. Sean, who played Bob the Assassin, is back into rotation on the table, but every other player is new to the scenario. So yeah, so the review cap pending.
Okay. I've just noticed that Nightbot has just kicked in. So hello, Victor. I did a couple of tests before the stream started, and so yes, yes, Jay. Sad news indeed. Yeah, I remember when we lost Len Lakofka. I'd had a couple of little argy-bargies with him on Facebook a few times. He was a proper cranky old grognard when he wanted to be, but yeah, we'll be mentioning Len tonight. Because he knew what he liked and he knew his stuff. So I just realised I've left my door open. Bear with me.
And he leaves me to command the show. Oh, he's back.
I'm back. Hello, Stephen. Hello, Daniel. Just all the greetings. All right. Okay, what games have I had? I had quite a few games. We played in Yule, didn't we, on Saturday evening?
Mm-hmm. I couldn't join that because I was running Night Below.
They met a new NPC, a shed-dwelling hippie, an igloo-dwelling hippie. Basically, a man.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, so they all got stoned with him on, and they fought some yetis, and the dice said that the yeti, and the dice said that the yeti ran away when wounded. Well done. They'd beaten off a yeti when they were all first level. And then what did we play on Monday? He played him a Dragon Lords game. That was all right. It was a big combat. Combat went on a little bit, as it tends to in that system. And we played some Call of Cthulhu last night. And I'm quite pleased to say we haven't even got out of the introduction yet. And Iman's character has nearly lost 20% of his starting sanity.
Very good.
Very good indeed. Very good indeed. So poor Ted. Poor Ted's going to struggle. Oh dear. All right, we have a bear lurking there in the form of the Society of Role-Playing Gamers. Society of Role-Playing Enthusiasts, SOAR for short. Much better. Hello, Nutty. How you doing? We're not going to skip anything. For the purpose of this stream, I have defined low level as any module designed for an average level of between 0 and 4. I would define mid levels as 5 through to 8 and high levels as 9+. Think that's fair?
I'll go with that.
So this includes anything with a suggested level range of 0 up to 3 to 5. So the furthest we'll go is the likes of UK4, U3 modules like that. Yes, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. Yeah. So we have 22 people wanting to. We're doing basic D&D today, and we're doing first edition AD&D. Anything that is specifically for first edition or basic, official ones, official adventures. There's one adventure that is not TSR, but it was part of a box set to commemorate an anniversary of Dungeons and Dragons, and it was written for first edition, and it's the one we're going to start with. It's the one we're going to start with, just to get this one out of the way to begin with. So let's get this screen shared. These are in alphabetical order according to their module code. So can anyone in chat guess what the first module is based on the description I've given? Correct, Halakar. Halakar wins.
Give the man a biscuit.
Give the man a biscuit. So, yeah. Not A1 is a mid-level because it's level 4 to 7. There we go. Many of you will not know this adventure. There we go. Sean has it as part of the slavers.
Against the slaver lords.
Against the slave
volume.
lords. Yep.
This is print on demand, so you can get it dirt cheap.
Okay. So, yes, it has got wretched shock amphibian things. Sean, you were saying before the stream that you've read it, but you've not run it.
Correct. I read it over because I had planned on running. I had seeded it, but players didn't take the bait, so never got played.
Okay. What's your opinion of it?
It feels like it hits the beats of a first level adventure, but I get the feeling it was not written by somebody who understood first edition. Okay. That's my impression from one read through. I might revise that if I go through it again or play it, but that was sort of the feel.
A0 is for levels 1 to 3, Omanal. It is a misprint on the cover. Internally, it says 1 to 3. But yes, for me, it does give an old school vibe in the sense that it is location based.
Mm-hmm. It's not awful, but
it isn't awful. It's not awful. It's location based. I just want to quickly just run through the sort of things I have decided for general topics to discuss regarding the modules on this stream. So, have we played or DM'd it? Sean, you've prepped it,
but didn't get to run it.
I have DM'd it. Briefly, what do we think of it? You think it's an old school adventure, but written by someone who didn't really grasp old school properly?
That's just how it felt. I might have been bitter when I read. I don't know. I might be wrong. I accept that I might be wrong in that assessment. I don't know. I don't know the author, but it just kind of felt like they didn't quite get it. But I'm going on a 5-year-old opinion too. So
okay. I rather enjoyed running it because I felt it was a bit of a breath of fresh air amongst the adventures you get put out officially nowadays.
Right, and that's a fair assessment.
Does it do what it intended?
As in terms of having, in terms of being an adventure, sure, but in terms of connecting it to the Slave Lord series, no, I don't think so. it's too low in level. There's still too much of a jump that if you were going to go from this to the first Slave Lord module, there's probably, you're looking at least 3 or 4 levels of experience the characters have to make.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it doesn't serve as a bridge. It serves as maybe a vague prelude, but not a direct lead in to the Slavers series for sure.
Yeah, I'd agree there. I mean, it says it's for levels 1 to 3. I wouldn't put level 1 characters through it.
No, there's some rough encounters in there.
Yes, level 2 to 3, but there's not enough in there to get. If you're playing the Slave Lord series as a campaign, the tournament characters were levels 4 to 7, and tournaments expect casualties.
Mm-hmm.
If you play A1, A2, A3, and A4 with level 4 and 5 characters, you will get a lot of casualties. Hell of a lot of casualties. They are tough. If you're running a campaign with those adventures in, I would say party level 6 minimum. Now, A0, I would say party level 2 to 3. So you've got to somehow get these characters up to the power level of level 6 between running that as an intro and before you run A1. And there's a whole lot of gaming there.
That's assuming you want to jump right to it. Like if you're
yeah.
just setting it up and you don't have a timeline for going to A1, then it won't matter. The other thing, now correct me if I'm wrong, the other thing I remember is this one was sort of one that you want to play through, like the characters don't necessarily want to take a break. Now, if you're playing AD&D properly, you have to take a break and you have to take time off to level train, and that can take weeks.
Yes.
And the scenario doesn't necessarily give you the opportunity to do that. So you need to play it through as one scenario, not necessarily a one shot, but as one go. Because if you take a few weeks off, then the culprits are going to figure out somebody's onto them and possibly leave.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's not suitable for one ed in that case.
No, correct. It doesn't provide a base town. It describes an area. It describes something in brief, but it doesn't lay it out for you. The main body of the adventure is talking about the quarry itself, which is quite it's quite an interesting adventure location. It's got some new monsters, which a lot of old adventures did. I'm going to touch on one thing I really don't like about it, and that's the main bad guy in it. If you are an old school gamer who wants to play first edition AD&D with a lot of the sensibilities that are assumed regarding racial animosities and all that sort of stuff, the main bad guy will grate on you. Will really grate on you. It's just unrealistic. I don't believe it could happen. I don't believe that it's remotely even logical or feasible. I know people don't care so much about all that sort of stuff nowadays, but for me, he's not feasible at all. So that is a problem. Now, one other thing I would like to have in here is regarding. Oh, Richard says, could you start out at 3? Then no, unless you are, if you're playing XP and training by the book, then you've got a long way to go between this module and the Slavers series.
Yeah, well, they recommend 4 to 7 for A1, right?
But that's for the tournament,
right? And
if you're playing that in a campaign, I'd say level 6 minimum. Those aspects are nasty.
Well, the other thing to remember is a lot of these older modules, when they say average 4 to 7, they're assuming a group of like 8 to 10.
Yeah. I ran a party of 8 well-equipped adventurers through the Slavers series, and they were mostly level 5 and 6, and they got their asses kicked repeatedly. Absolutely, because it is rough. It is rough.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so one other thing though, how much prep and modification is needed to make Danger at Dark Shelf Quarry work? We've already said in terms of the series, you have to drop a lot in between A0 and A1. I think you've got to modify the main bad guy, and you've got to provide a local base. but there's not much else.
Yeah, I wasn't. I don't remember changing anything.
It's quite simple. I think it is quite simple. So this is. I mean, we are going to go quite quickly through these adventures. I mean, this is the sort of thing we're doing. This is two old blokes who have played these adventures. Most of them.
One great hair bloke, one no hair bloke.
Yeah. And we're just saying whether we recommend them or not, because that's how this whole channel, my whole channel, started. Module reviews. So, would you recommend it to an old school DM?
I'm going to go with a yes, and mainly because even though I didn't get to run it, I still do want to run it. Like I've looked it over, and it's like, yeah, I think it's got enough cooking. I think the lack of a town is not a problem because you can just set it wherever, right? You can just create your own town, so that's not a big deal. And as you said, in an age when it's all modern style adventures, this is somebody trying an old school one, which is pretty good. Officially published, there's a lot of third party old school content that sort of fills that need, but something with the official label on it, it's unique. For
me, it's a tentative yes. There are, I say, there's a few things I think you have to alter. I'm not going to really spoiler the main bad guy, other than he is illogical. And his accomplice, I don't think his accomplice would work with him. But that's just how I tend to run the races in my world. So there you go. Right. Now we can get a few that the only spoilers you're getting is the order in which we're covering things. Alphabetical order. So what's coming next? You should recognize by the cover. In Search of the Unknown.
Oh, my childhood.
I did not get this until I came back to the hobby.
I got it because I had Keep on the Borderlands as a kid, and being a completionist, I couldn't have B2 without B1. It was weird, so I had to go out and get B1.
Right. Lots of people will have got this with the very early basic sets. It was the module that was provided before B2. So, Sean, I think you're the more experienced person with this adventure.
I've run it a couple of times over the years. I ran it for the first time when I was 13, and as a starter module, that is sort of it's a tutorial module as well. I found it quite useful. And even going back to it a couple of years ago, I ran a group through it, and they had a great time. So it's one that kind of holds up. It's a little on the absurd side. The dungeon is massive, but it's one of those ones that you don't have to run as a gauntlet. Like you can go back and forth and do excavations, and that's sort of the ideal. It's excavation style adventuring rather than gauntlet style. So I liked it. That was really good. And again, for new DMs, it's got this whole setup where the treasures are not and monsters are not laid out. You've got an empty spot on each room and then at the back of the book, there's a list of monsters, a list of treasures. So you can go in and customize it. Yes. So it's sort of, half created for you, and then you can do the rest. So it's pretty neat.
And one of the things that it is easy to stock. There's a lot of text in it. It's a big old dungeon. There's a lot of text in it. And there's a lot of description of most of the locations. And it's quite heavy going to digest it all because of the way it is a very rambling dungeon.
It is. It's nonsensical in its design, but that's typical of dungeons. And it's one of those ones that like B2, it's designed as a teacher module. Like it's giving you tips on how to run a game, how to create a dungeon, how to stock a dungeon. So it was valuable to me as a 13-year-old, but I found even as an adult running it, just as a dungeon, knowing how to run the game, players enjoyed it. So
I've read it. I ran a couple of sessions of it for some players who didn't get very far. But I played through it myself. If you remember the Neverwinter Nights, they did a lot of old module conversions. There was an old module conversion of this, and I ran the character through it using the Neverwinter Nights conversion, which proved proved to be quite challenging.
Goodman Games did Into the Borderlands.
They did indeed.
Which includes this one. It's Keep on the Borderlands and this one, both updated. So it was a pretty good upgrade. But I think it's underrated because I do have heard a lot of hate for it, but I've always had a good time playing it, and it's easy enough to run. And it's your basic dungeon. There's no story you have to follow. There's no intended path. It's just like, here's a dungeon, explore at your leisure.
Yeah, I mean, my general opinion of it is I don't like the upper level map as a whole, but it gives a lot of ideas.
Mm-hmm.
As you say, it is extremely sprawling and nonsensical. The lower level's fine. Lower level's absolutely fine, but there's a lot of really, really good ideas in there. It doesn't work for me as a cohesive dungeon at all. It's not meant to, but it's fun. It's there to inspire, and it's there to teach, and I think it does that admirably. There's a lot of imagination in there.
I agree, and even somebody getting into old school, like now, like say they decide they're sick of 5th Ed and they want to go into old school essentials or classic, it's still a good starter because it'll teach you that style of play, which they're not used to. They're not used to. Their modern game is all about, here's the story, here are the plot beats, here are the plot points, here's the linear railroad you got to go through. And this one is nope. This one's pure sandbox. You go in and go where you want to go. Figure it out.
Nutty. A first time.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir. Well, we needed some of the more basic people, like, you know, the original Beckme crew, because you're lopsided here on the AD&D new kid shit.
Hey, I started with Beckme. Stuff like this was my training ground. So
Right.
This module is absolute bullshit.
well, you are entitled to your incorrect opinion, sir.
Okay, so if I'm getting the right module, because I'm going from memory, there is a maze at the top left that doesn't actually go anywhere and doesn't finish and is like a misprint.
Bottom left, I think. Bottom left.
Bottom left, yeah.
Bottom left?
Yeah. Oh, it's like I said, the map makes no sense. The map makes no sense at all.
It absolutely doesn't, but that's okay. Here we are. Is this the one you're thinking of?
Yep, that's the module.
Stop trying to look for sense in these things. They're just meant to be, sandbox adventures. You go in, you explore, you find something, and you withdraw. Rinse and repeat.
Now, I would understand the part where you're getting a module, it's not fully completed, because this is before the Beckme set was released, where it taught you how to play as a dungeon master. So I give it a pass on not being complete for that reason.
I think it had a purpose to serve. It was there in the starter basic set for a reason. And I think it did that very well. I mean, I do wish it had presented a few ideas for a story, but I get that in the late 70s, it was all new, and the story was the dungeoneering. The game was the dungeoneering in a lot of cases. And yes, we make our own stories when we play, but I do wish there was just a little bit more plot to it, a little bit more cohesion.
But I don't think you need it. And especially as a learner adventure, you don't necessarily want to pile that on top of a DM who's still getting the basics.
Possibly, yeah, okay. I mean, I can see the pros and cons. I mean, I'm in the middle on it. I mean, I like what it did. I like the idea of it. I think it succeeded in giving a new DM ideas and nuts and bolts and tips on running the game. I think that's good. But it just seems to. It was always a little bit too just disjointed to be really highly recommended. But hey ho, how much prep modifications need to make it work?
A little bit, because it's actually designed for that. You need to sit and prep. The monsters and the treasures have to be preset. So yeah, you have to do a little work.
And you have to redo the map.
No, you don't. Map's fine as is. It'll drive players crazy, and you don't have to do anything. You just watch them go, why is this here?
So it does as it's intended to do. Do we recommend it? For me, it's another tentative yes. Sean?
Yeah, I recommend it. I it's one of those things you can just seed it into your world. You don't even have to drive players through it and make them finish it. It's just like, oh, here's a dungeon we can sort of pick at every once in a while to find some loot. It doesn't have to be played through as a plot-based narrative. So yeah, I know I do recommend, especially for somebody just starting in old school, wants to get a feel for that style of play.
I have a feeling I know what Nutty will say.
Actually, I'm going to say, yeah, I think it's worth playing. I think it's worth picking up, but you're going to have to redo the map. And as they've stated, you add the treasures and the monsters in.
Yeah. Okay. Right. We move along. We're spending about 10 minutes on each adventure. And hello, Adam. Nice to see you.
It's been a while since we've seen Adam. How you doing, Adam?
Yeah. Squirrel Hermit's here as well. Lots of people here. There's lots of people. We've got 29 people here.
Actually, you know what? Can I say one thing about that module? You guys say there's no story involved, but there's kind of like an environmental story going on by where you find certain things.
Yes, there can be. I mean, the story will be emergent, but there's no preset plot that you're going to fall through. And there's
no, but I mean, it's kind of like an environmental story.
Yeah, any module will have that. So yeah, story can be mined from it for sure, and you can infuse things too. Like, there's no reason a DM can't infuse a reason, things going on. And they even did that in the 5th edition upgrade, where they did put a little more in to finesse the characters that were the two characters who created the dungeon in the first place. So it's easily done.
But I think we agree it did what it achieved what it set out to, and I think that's important. Right. So everyone in chat will know this one.
Never heard of it.
No, never heard of it. No, never heard of this one. No. The most widely owned, widely played adventure ever, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Go on then, Sean. I should say, go on then, Mage.
Well, everybody must know my opinion on this one. It's magnificent. Yeah, I love this one. I've run it many times over the years, mainly because it is the essential sandbox, the essential old school, where here you go, guys. You're in a keep. What do you want to do? There's no plot to drive it. It's the classic sandbox. Some people hate it for that reason, but that's because they don't necessarily want that experience. But it is classic. It's the essence of adventure. You were on the frontier. There's danger out in the wilderness. Go meet it. Make your fortune. All right.
So you've run it many times. I've run it once, and I played in a session of it. It's another one because I started with the Mensa Red Box. Mm-hmm. It's not one I actually picked up and read until like a fair bit later. So I don't have that nostalgia that a lot of people who started with Moldvay Basic have for it. Nutty, you run it and played it? I'm guessing the answer is yes.
Yes, and yes.
Yes.
I will say I don't think it's a good starter module to start people on D&D if it's the first time they're playing, because of the lack of plot line and something to drive the characters forward. They tend to stumble and fumble if it's the first time they've ever played Dungeons and Dragons. Just to get them going, like I would give them some sort of tiny beginner adventure first.
But the beautiful thing about this is that as a DM, you can do that. You can still set them there and get them in the location before you give them the meat of what that module entails. Do exactly what you're saying. Ease them into how to play, but then you're still at the setting, right? And that's what's great about it is it's a setting. It's a very tightly constructed setting.
It does contain a lot of the same tips that B1 had got, in that it's got tables and generators and things in there. There's advice in there. But here, I agree with General Nut in that it isn't an easy adventure to run well.
Well, I didn't say that.
I thought you hinted at it.
He doesn't like it as a starter.
I don't like it as the first. If you're introducing somebody to Dungeons and Dragons or to a role-playing game that has never played a role-playing game, I don't think it's a great module for that without a little bit of a Kickstarter.
Well, that's what I'm assuming, because I'm assuming running well requires a little bit of experience.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't think any DM is going to do a great job the first time they do anything.
That's true. That's true.
So I'm not going to fault the module of that. I will say that, like, especially the early versions of that module are full of typos and mistakes everywhere. So you're going to have to read through it and decipher it a little bit. QA apparently in the first two modules is not something they considered.
They started to get used to the idea of quality control sort of around sort of 79, 80-ish. Then about 83, they completely forgot about it again. It's fair to say. The editing went downhill around 83 completely. But yes, you can get these on Drive-Thru RPG, and Goodman Games does have them. Mage has already waived his copy of Into the Borderlands for us to see.
Drive-Thru RPG is better if you just want these modules. The Goodman Games one you can't get on PDF. This one, if you're not going 5th ed, you don't need it anyway. This one you can get on print on demand as well as PDF through Drive-Thru RPG. You could probably you could probably get a copy of this on eBay cheap because there were so many of them made. It's not a rare item.
No, not at all. Not at all. Even the prices of this one have even been going up in recent years. I remember when it was £2 or £3 a shot about 5 years ago. It's not that now. You're looking at 20 quid for a decent copy.
Maybe, I don't know, but it's not hard to get if you, again, PDF and print on demand is pretty dirt cheap.
I'm going to give my general opinion of the adventure now, and I don't love it. I respect it for what it did. I understand why so many people love it, because for the vast majority of people who started with Mold Bay Basic, it was their first adventure. And as General Nut says, I don't think it's a really good first adventure. I don't think it's a good one for fledgling DMs to cut their teeth on, because there is so much that the DM has to do to make it work.
It does require some work. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean,
similar
a hell of a lot of preparation.
Yeah. Similar to B1, like, for example, none of the NPCs are named. It seems a small matter, but that's by design, so you can customize but you do have to go through. And one of the biggest complaints and criticisms I hear about the Caves of Chaos is, of course, how and somebody mentioned up thread that all of the monsters living together in such proximity doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. And, it's one of those things, you have to make sense of it. You have to infuse the motivations and the purpose and everything behind there. It's not difficult. It's easy enough. The way it's set up and the way it's laid out, sort of the answers for that are there, but you still have to do it. You have to make the notes. And when I was prepping it for my most recent, for the OSE recaps campaign, the OSE campaign, I had to do it all over again. I had to go down and, okay, what's the Castellan named? Okay, why are the people here, and et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, it does require that level of work.
I think you really do need a really committed DM to make it sing. A really, really committed DM to make it sing, because of all the adventures we've seen so far, this one requires the most prep.
Not that much. Not that much more, but it does require prep. It does require you to sit and think things through.
Because all the creatures are so close together. I hate running adventures in a way that the monsters just sit there and wait for the party.
They're don't, so though.
Close. That they don't. They don't have to.
No, but in this adventure, more than any others we've seen so far, because they're so tightly packed, and there's so many monsters all close together, you almost have to sketch out an extra copy of the map and label in on an extra copy what is where, so you can quickly refer to what is going to respond to noises.
But that's fine. That's even in there. Like, for example, the Goblin Cave has an ogre cave right next to it, and there's specifically say that the goblins will summon the ogre. They'll call him over.
But that actually, it adds to the prep in that sense, in that you've really got to have a really good knowledge of what is where before you even start.
But that's not a bug.
It's not a bug. No, you're correct.
That
You're
level
right.
of
You're
prep
right.
will help you run it too. That'll
Yes, of course.
make the running smooth.
I think the prep work is a good thing. You got to teach DMs. This is going to be a lot of work, and you got to get used to creating shit on the fly. So you might as well have to understand what's going on so that you can do that if it need be.
And the prep work is reasonable. It's not like you have to rewrite the module to make it work. You just have to fill in some details so you have them going forward. You know, you want some names, you want some motivations, things like that. But
yeah, unlike B1 where you basically have to redo the module.
I think this requires more prep than B1 personally. To make it really work. B1 is more of just a pure dungeon crawl. This is something
prep's about the same. It's just a little different. The prep is in different area. Yeah.
This has a lot more content too than B1.
It does. Yes, it does. Oh yes, yes. It offers very, very good bang for your buck.
This one will last you. Like, you can do a whole campaign set here. Even when you've cleared out the caves and done everything that's in the printed module, it's a setting. And the setting will grow and organically change based on the players' interactions. So it's possible that players, you know, will start at level 1 here and still be level 6 or 7, but the DM can just keep adding to the wilderness. There's still more and still be based in the keep. So it's a potential campaign from this one little book. And that's magnificent.
And that's where my latest campaign started, was in B2, and they've never even gone to the Caves of Chaos. That's not even an option anymore. It's been so late. It's like 10 years later now.
Yes, Brian, OAR1 was B1 and B2.
B2,
combined.
yeah, it was both.
Yeah, yes. So, yeah, Good Games have done it.
I will flash the book. I recommend, if you are a 5e player, this is actually a pretty decent book. It's more of a coffee table book than a module. Look at the size of this mother. But and it's got essays and all of the various reprints of the modules, but it does include 1 and 2. They've updated B1 and 2. And they've infused some of the plot things that we weren't talking about. They've infused some of that too. So it's interesting.
King Eric, this is a very easy question. XP
for me. I'm not a big fan of Milestone.
I'm not sold either way. If I'm playing D&D, I do XP because I think it's inherent in the game.
Yes.
Oh yeah, different game. I would have a different opinion, but for D&D,
Absolutely.
no, I want XP. I want this XP system.
Because that doesn't make any sense if you go chapter leveling up. Okay, so the thief gets 1.2 levels, and the fighter gets 1.5 levels, and the mage gets like how do you do that? I don't know.
Yeah, it is a feature in early D&D that thieves go up a little faster than clerics, who go up a little faster than fighters, who go up a little faster than magic users,
and elves much slower than everybody else.
Absolutely, and that is a feature of the game.
The game's also designed so that disparity in levels doesn't make a difference, whereas you get something like 5th edition, everybody's meant to be exactly equal.
Yeah, which is a bug in later editions of D&D.
It's a pain in the ass, yeah.
Yes. Right, so recommendations for the Keep on the Borderlands. I think it's a straight yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do have misgivings. As Sean has said, you've got to put your own names on there. You've got to really dial into the politics of the various tribes. But in terms of how much adventure you get in a little book, it's massive.
My caveat to recommendation would be, if you're not a fan of sandbox style and you want that epic story with its specific needs, then this game's not for you. This is a setting that will last you a while if you just let the players explore it. But if you're going to be putting them on a focused story that you've created, you're not going to like it as much.
And if you want
if you want to put the characters on a focused story, tell them to read a novel.
Yeah, that is true.
Well, that's also a whole other conversation topic.
To get the best out of it, you've got to treat it like a slow burning campaign as well. You can't rush it. You cannot rush it. It'll just feel like a bland hack fest if you rush it. Because in essence, that's what it is until you put the life into it.
My anybody who watches my show knows that my OSE recaps are Keep on the Borderland. We're 30 sessions in, and they've probably completed about half of this printed module. With all the stuff I've added around and seeded in and choices players have made, and it's like, look how much mileage you can get out of it, right?
Yeah.
half of maybe the Goodman's games, I don't think they haven't gone into the keep on the Borderlands, into the Caves of Chaos very much. Have they actually entered any of them? They got there, wiped out by kobolds.
They've got in a few times. Are you talking my campaign?
Yeah. The recapped one anyway.
Yeah, the goblins were wiped out because of their actions. They've dealt with the kobolds. There's some trepidation about going back because now there's a hill giant that, because of a random encounter, is part of the tribes. So it's like, okay, so things are changing, but they know that a lot of the problems are coming from the caves, so they eventually will muster up. They've got 2 4th level clerics among the group now, so that will change their decision making.
Okay, so it's a yes from the keep on the Borderlands, but you've got to put the work in. You've got to treat it with the respect it deserves and the style of game it deserves.
And I think it gives you a good understanding of where the game was coming from at the time.
At the time, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So as a historical document, it's also great.
Yeah.
Okay, we move on. We are going alphabetically through all of these, so you know what's going to come next. This is the B series at the moment. And B3, Palace of the Silver Princess. One of the greatest cover images from early D&D. It's fantastic.
Yeah, the Decampus, I think it's called.
There's no M. Decapus.
The Decapus? Okay, it's been a while.
Yeah. Right, B3. Before I give them, I think those of you who've seen my review of this will know what I think of it. But we'll go to Mage first.
Yes, it plays better than it reads. I'm sort of ambivalent on it. I didn't mind it. I didn't love it. I ran my AD&D group through it though, and made the odd change here and there, at least to the setup. Most of these B series, what I don't like are some of the setups, and this one no different. But the module itself plays like a dungeon. It's a little on the nonsensical side, given that the palace is meant to be. It's not a relic. It's an active community. So you're going in, but it seems like a random old abandoned dungeon. So there's a little disjoint in tone.
Okay. A quick opinion from you, Nutty?
I unfortunately haven't run this or played it.
Okay.
I don't like the artwork on the front, though. I'll say that.
You don't, or you do?
I do not. I don't care for the artwork. No.
Oh, I love the artwork.
That monster was great. My player shit his pants when he fought that, because when in the playthrough, basically the entire group had been taken out of commission one way or the other. One got turned to stone. One was in negative hit points and convalescing, so it was down to the last fight of the dwarven fighter on his last 5 hit points, and then he fought that thing. It was like, oh shit.
I think King Eric is asking all these interesting questions. I think it's the first time he's been on one of my streams.
I think he's on coming from my channel.
King Eric, what do we think of? I'm going to answer this. No.
I'm going to say provisionally, if it's contextually accurate, like, when characters are going to investigate a spaceship, sure, but as a regular in the game world, not so much.
I will allow cannons if they've got a castle.
I'm going to say no firearms, no laser guns, no spaceships, no sci-fi in the fantasy period. Just a flat no. No exceptions to the rule. No.
Yeah, see, I'm almost with you. The occasional exception is okay. That a crashed spaceship that the players investigate once in a while, or once maybe in a campaign, I'll go for it. But generally speaking, I agree. I like my fantasy to be fantastic.
Yeah, same. Right, B3. Of course, it had an awkward start to life. It was recalled.
It was recalled, yeah.
Yeah, because of allegedly due to dodgy artwork. But if you've seen the PDF of the original version, it was shoddily put together. It had some good ideas, but basic D&D at that time was aimed generally at the younger audience.
I will not say that it was pulled for shoddy deployment, because a lot of their stuff was pretty shoddy.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was the official excuse. That doesn't mean it was the reason, right?
Yeah.
Well, the official excuse was dodgy artwork, adult-orientated artwork, potentially offensive to Gygax and various others' artwork, that sort of thing. I think that the original author, Gene Wells, got the tone horribly wrong for basic D&D, though there were some good ideas in the original. And the premise of it being a Palace of a Silver Princess worked better with her version, than it did with the Tom Moldvay rewrite. I think he was handed a poison chalice with this one, trying to rewrite it. And he did turn it into a monster menagerie. I think it's a very mediocre adventure. It's the first D&D module I ever played in fully as a player. So I should have nostalgic pangs towards it. I don't.
That's funny. I've read the original. I haven't read the reprint because I grabbed it much later. I didn't realize they were completely different.
They are. There were bits that are the same, but not a lot of it. So, does it set out what it attempted to do? Does it achieve what it attempted to do? It's got a choose your own adventure-y start to it, which I think was very nice in that it led a novice DM into the basics of running through an adventure. But then it just descends into just a pure dungeon crawl with seemingly random encounters dotted around. A lot of them didn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, they didn't make sense to the plot that was going on.
No,
there was a plot to this one. There was
yes.
The enemies had a reason for doing what they were doing. But
yeah. And it was a very difficult monster menagerie, and it's not great. It really isn't great, in my opinion. I know there are people who love it. The AD&D module where there's laser guns, King Eric, is S3 Expedition to the Barrier Peaks,
and it's absolutely horrible.
I don't like it. I don't like it. So have we played and DM'd this one? I have DM'd it and I have played it, and I enjoyed it as a 12-year-old, as a player. When I looked back at it and read it, I thought, oh my God.
Some modules play better than they read.
That's often the case, yeah.
As a 12-year-old experiencing D&D for the first time, it could have been the worst module ever written. I'd still enjoyed it because it was my first game. That's the thing. Everything was new to me. But in terms of preparation, I would argue it requires, to run it as is, it's the least of all those so far. But to fix it, it's difficult.
Well, I ran it about 5 years ago, and I made changes partially for the context of my game world in the scenario of my campaign, but and it played well enough. The players had a good time. We ended up, the one thing they didn't give you in the module, they talk about how the Valley of Haven is protected by this magic aura, and with the aura gone, humanoids are invading. But what they don't give you is details about that. So what I did is I created those details and created the Valley of Haven. And so my players ended up on their own initiative, splitting the party. One group led by Ranger, the Ranger went into the wilderness of Valley of Haven to defeat the marauding humanoids. So that was completely original. Whereas the other group went into the dungeon to try to bring down the shield and restore the Valley of Haven. So they did the module.
Yeah.
So it played well enough, but it's not one I think I would repeat.
Say, Richard, I was 12 when I played it, and it was just me and my friend. The problem was when I was 12 years old, I went to a school that was 12 miles from my house. There was only one guy in my local area who I knew who was into this, into gaming at the time. All the other kids who were into gaming at the school were dotted all over the city. So I ran. It was basically me with the entire with all the characters. It was my first experience of D&D. I had 6 character sheets in front of me, thinking, "Oh my God, what's happening?" But I thoroughly enjoyed it because it was all new. I was crawling through a dungeon, and I'd never experienced that before. But Yeah, no, sorry, and it's not everyone's forte. That's the thing. It's one reason why we have a slightly different panel tonight. People like Bear and Elfbait, some of the others. This isn't their thing, so they're not with us tonight. But they might be lurking in. I know Bear was lurking in chat earlier. Right, so Palace of the Silver Princess. Recommend or not? I'm going to say no.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a no.
You got to abstain.
You got to abstain. Okay. So it's a no from the panel for this one. Now then. Good to see you lurking, Elfbait. In fact, I think we need a quick notice of the new Elfbait command. Look, I can grow a mohawk and you can't. There we go. That's a newly added one. And there's another newly added one. I didn't know General Nut would be joining us on the stream tonight. But I have added one in for Nutty as well. There we go. Who has been one of our most frequent players on the Discord, I would have to say. There we go.
The stealth chicken.
Proud inventor of the stealth chicken.
And combined with his affinity for using buckets as weapons, he's going to be the KFC of our D&D games.
Yeah.
The chicken bucket. No. All right. That's the best I got. Sorry.
Yeah, I get the references. Most people won't get the references, but
right. So we move on. B4, Lost City.
Sadly, I've never played it nor run it. I've been meaning
haven't?
to. No.
It's
one of those things that I never had as a kid. I picked it up a few years back. I've got it on the shelf. Flipped through it, meaning to run it, prepping it. I even got the beautiful, gorgeous Goodman Games update. Look at me just showing off my shelf. Yes, it's.
Yeah.
I'm very fond of the Goodman Games stuff. And I've read it. I've liked what I've read. I just, it's one of those things. I'm not going to put my players, unless it's a setting thing like keeping the borderlands. I'm going to put my players in a dungeon and say, here you go. I seed it. It's been, it's been sort of threads are there, but nobody's pulled them. So have yet to run it.
Okay. General Nut?
I've never DM'd it. I have partially played it before it fell apart. But many games did when I was young.
Right. When I was a kid, I played it 3 or 4 times and never got very far because it's brutally lethal. Oh, we go in there with a first level party of fairly made Beckme or BX characters. Oh, they get absolutely shredded in no time. And when you're like 12 or 13 and you don't have any idea about how to go with reaction rolls and get people on your side and get in with the factions. In recent years, I've run it. And I'm going to say B4, one of the best adventures ever published. It's absolutely magnificent. The tone of it, that in the insanity of the occupants, the scope for dealing with the various people in there and the politicking and all the madness. It is superb. It really is good. Yes, there's too much treasure, but the idea is in old basic terms, you're meant to make allies with somebody near the top of the dungeon. You're meant to go down, grabbing loads of treasure and making your way back up to safety. And the DM is meant to give you the XP there and then and allow you to get your level before you go back down deeper. Otherwise, it's far too hard. You've got to be able to level while playing the adventure without going back to a town, because you can't go back to a town. So the DM has got to allow you to gain your experience and gain your levels when you get back to a place of safety that you have forged by being diplomatic with the people who are potentially peaceful with you. If you don't play like that, you're dead. You're absolutely dead. You can see the inspiration. You can see that Tom Moldvay has been heavily influenced by Appendix N authors in it. Mm-hmm. There's so many nods to all those old works, and I just think it's wonderful. It's wonderful. Yes, Zargon at the bottom is ropey. The expert levels, the last 4 or 5 pages, would have been better off as a separate adventure. They're a bit of a waste of space, and it leaves the actual city itself undeveloped. But that's where Goodman Games come in, because they've done that in that big hardback. Then it's not perfect, the Goodman Games version, but they've had a really good had a really good go at it, and it's easily back convert because all the extra stuff they've written is for 5th edition. It's easy to convert that back to basic, really easy. In terms of preparation, it's a simple one to prepare, unless you want to go deeper than the first 5 tiers. If you want to go deeper than the first 5 tiers, you've got to really add a lot of description.
You got to basically make the dungeon.
Yeah, you have, yes. But those first 5 tiers are pretty easy to prepare. They're not the hardest to run either, as long as you are the sort of DM that is able to make a dungeon react to the party, because that's what it's meant to do. This is a module that is meant to react to the party, and I think that's what modules are supposed to do. It's got a little bit of semblance of a plot, and I think it's wonderful. I think it's absolutely wonderful, and I like to see all the positive comments in chat about this one as well, because I think this to me is my favorite basic adventure that I've run, and it's in my top 3 modules of all time across all forms of early D&D. There we go. Is that glowing or what?
Sounds like you absolutely hated it.
Oh, I hated every bit of it.
Yeah, I don't know. He's always on the fence about everything.
So, John, do you recommend this one?
Yes. Yes.
I did not expect you to say that. I totally did not. You know what? I haven't run it. I have read through it, and it's one of those ones that, even though I haven't played it, I have to recommend it as well. A, because of its place in history in terms of the dungeons. It gets glowing reviews. Also because I really want to run it myself. I'm just not going to force anybody down the path. I'll just seed it heavily and imply that people have to go there.
Or you could just dump them in the desert. Just dump them. Just have a grumpy mage teleport them into the desert.
Well, I have set my OC campaign adjacent to Alarm, where that is canonically set, but nobody's taken the bait and going to Alarm yet.
I enjoyed it as a player. I've read it. I'd like to run it, but I haven't run it. So,
Richard, that depends. If you are comfortable with back converting 5th edition stuff to basic and you want to run it in basic, go for the Goodman Games version. Not everything they did was perfect in terms of the tone of it, but it wasn't far off, and they did develop the lower levels better. They've done a good job. I would recommend it.
Do you have to know 5e to backtrack a 5e adventure to old school?
I think you more have to know old school. You have to know the system you're adapting something to rather than from. Because you can.
But I know a lot of monsters are completely different, right?
They are, and that's why you need to know what you're going to. So, for example, if I've got a 5th edition adventure that I'm reconverting, I just look and say, okay, well, what's the equivalent? Because I did that with Beneath the Keep, which is meant to be Beneath the Keep on the Borderlands for 5th edition, and they've got some monsters in there that are a little. So I just basically say, okay, well, what's suitable for the game that they're going to, as opposed to what they're coming from. So yeah, I don't think you need to know much about 5e. Just you look at the monster and say what's suitable for old school. And likewise, if you're converting to 5th edition, you need to know 5th edition more than you need to know what you were coming from the old school.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Right. Eric's giving us some more questions. Is Tomb of Horrors overrated? Curious. I would say no. It's more misunderstood.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It was meant as a tournament module. It was meant to kill people. It was meant to destroy them, to break their souls. And a lot of people think that's unfair. It's like, well, that wasn't unfair to them. The Gygax created that module to challenge people who were basically eating his games for lunch. So it wasn't unfair to them. It might be unfair for the average player who's not expecting it.
I think it depends on the DM who's running it. A lot of DMs that will run it are problematic DMs.
Could be.
Not saying that all are, but it's a module that attracts problematic DMs.
It can do. I think
it's a meat grinder for sure.
Yes, absolutely. It's not a campaign adventure at all. Never. Don't consider it for a campaign. It's a one-shot. Create one-shot characters that are specifically designed to take on what's in there, and it'll still kill them.
Mm-hmm.
But let your players know what they're coming in, getting in for. Give them these one-shot characters. Give them an array of useful items that they can use, because they still need to be ingenious to get through it. Give them the tools to be ingenious with. And
if you are running as a campaign, which I disagree, you can, but you just make sure the players know they can nope out at any time. The first time somebody's disintegrated by that sphere of annihilation, say, that's it, I'm out. You won't get the treasure. I don't care. I will live.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Jay's got it right. Test the player, not the characters. Absolutely. Yeah. That is the intention of it. And Halakar, yes, it will destroy players who rely on the character sheet.
Theoretically, a team of first level players could get through the Tomb of Horrors, right?
They could get a long way in.
Yeah. It depends on the wandering monsters.
Right. Well, there aren't any.
I'm thinking that there are demons roaming around there.
It's a suggestion that they can be used,
but there's no official chart.
Oh, okay. That's probably what I'm thinking.
Yeah. I mean, I struggle to believe that a first level party could get to the end and win.
I said theoretically. I don't know.
Theoretically, but a clever low level party can easily get a lot further than a more gung ho high level party. That's simply the way it's done.
Mm-hmm.
So the Lost City comes highly recommended. You got that? Highly recommended. Right. Coming towards adventures in this series that I know a little less about. I'm going to ask you two first. Have you run or played it? I've never run this.
Prepped, but not run.
I've never run this. I've never read it, but I've played through the first half.
That's interesting because I've read it, tried to get the characters, gave the seed, but they never grabbed.
Yeah, I've got it seeded in my OC campaign as well, and players might actually go there, but it's not happened yet. I've prepped it in the past as well, intending to run it. Never, as you say, they just didn't go. So
it looks good.
It looks great. It looks absolutely great. It's kind of like Keep on the Borderlands light. They've got a little setting, Fort Guido. They don't lay it out as much as Keep on the Borderlands, which is unfortunate, but that just means you can do it. And then there's hills to explore. There's things to explore, and they've got this massive wilderness map to check out. So the potential is there. I just have nothing to give you on how it practically played out.
From my experience of playing it, I thoroughly enjoyed all the wilderness. We got to the hill, that place on the hill, and it was too difficult for us. We were a party of 3 characters. It was far too hard for us to go anywhere near it. So that's the way it goes, and we didn't get the opportunity to add any NPCs to the party.
I'm going to say that's a problem with all the modules of that time, that we often didn't have a great amount of players, most of us. So we didn't have enough players for them, really.
The expectation of at least 8 to 10 characters, not just necessarily players, but you were supposed to have henchmen and hirelings, and you're supposed to have a small army going into a lot of these, and that changes the dynamic immensely.
Yeah, it would have done for us. But we tried to go in with just the 3 characters.
He'll get butchered. Yeah,
we got butchered. Yeah, absolutely. But we thoroughly enjoyed the wilderness, and as you say, it did feel there was a lot of freedom, some very interesting and entertaining encounters along the way, and I thoroughly enjoyed what I played of it. Anything more to add on this one?
No, not. I mean, it reads well. and it looks like it'll play out well. I've got nothing to back it up. Undead Vikings here, he endorses it. Absolute blast, best of the B series by far.
Okay, well there you go. That and it looks like the gotcha moment when spoiler after you slay the Hobgoblin King, you fall into the chute that takes you down to the lower caverns and have to fight the dragon. We got killed by wandering bugbears.
Bugbears will do it. They're not easy.
Yeah.
Surprise.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that's what happened. So, hey ho. But I think B5 gets a tentative thumbs up from me. Tentative, yes. I enjoyed what I played on it. Undead Viking in chat has gone yay for this one. And I think both Mage and Nutty are quite positive from what they've read about it. So
yeah, but I haven't played it, so I don't like to give it a thumbs up until I've run it thoroughly.
Yeah, but your experience was positive. The experience you had was positive. So
yeah.
Right, so we are going to move fairly quickly on.
The Veiled Society.
The Veiled Society. I have played it twice. I've never run it.
I've run it once.
Played it once, run it 3 times.
I guess you like it.
Okay. So, verdict on what you've seen of it?
I don't mind it. It's a little on the linear side plot-wise, if I remember. It's been about 8 years since I ran it. Let me see. Where is it? I've got my print-on-demand copy here somewhere. What I wish I had the real one. So what I might do is print it up because they've got these little things where you can make the buildings. That's right.
Yes.
The camera.
Yes.
Cut out buildings. I'm tempted to do that, but yeah, I think the potential for intrigue is there. So I think it's a good introduction to city-style adventures.
Yes.
I think John would really enjoy playing it.
I did.
Or sorry, I think you enjoy DMing it. Because although the plot line may be very linear, characters never tend to be very linear. And they can go in all kinds of directions.
Mm-hmm.
And it causes all kinds of problems that will be great for the future because they'll be threatening merchants and whatnot, trying to find out information. They will think there are clues where there are none, and they will bear down on it. And it's quite enjoyable in many ways.
I loved it when I played it. Absolutely loved it. I loved the whole feel of it. I loved the fact that it tried something really different. It was the first basic module with that sense of intrigue to it.
Yep.
And it was put in a city, whereas we'd had dungeons and wildernesses before. This, even though the Lost City said it was a city, it was a dungeon.
It also gave you a sense of intrigue for the entire area that your characters are in. Yeah. You got a bit more of the political outline of what's really going on in the area, which was, I don't think, mentioned before that.
I have zero interest in the buildings, which is wasn't the module only 16 pages? It was relatively short, wasn't it? It was only 16 pages or something because the buildings padded it out. I thought it was quite a short adventure. I mean, Sean, you could correct me on that.
No, well, the beats that it gives you in the module are short, but as General Nut says, players aren't necessarily going to follow those beats. So unless you're railroading them, they're going to go all over the map. So the players will pad out the adventure, especially as an investigative one. You got to be cagey with the clues. You can't just give them the clues. You have to make them earn it, and that's going to take them on all sorts of tangents.
Yes, Omanal. I've never dealt with players going off script. Never. It never happens in games of Call of Cthulhu. No, not at all. Yes. Yeah. All the bloody time. Anyway, but yes, I've not gone back and read the Veiled Society. I don't have a physical copy of it. It's one I would be interested in getting hold of, but it can be pricey to get it complete nowadays. It's certainly from having played through it. I think you're right. I think I would enjoy running this. I really do. I like what it attempted. It was very ambitious. And
it's very different from anything that came before it too. For once, it's not a hack and slash at all.
No. I know
There
when
are
I played
moments,
it,
but yeah,
I know when I played it the first time. The reason why I played it twice is the first time I tried to play it, we tried to play it as a hack and slash, and it didn't work. It didn't work at all. And we played it again, and we died again the second time because we were still too tempted to go in swords blazing, but we got a bit further. So I've never finished it. But no, I liked it. I liked it. I like what it did. I do wish there was more in the module itself. I would have liked. I know it doesn't have a lot about the city itself in there. I'd rather have had 16 pages on Specularum and 16 pages of adventure, rather than 60 pages of adventure and some cutout models I'll never use.
right. No,
It probably could have given you at least 8 pages on the families as well. More.
Yeah.
If you own the Gazetteer, it's a good thing to read before you run that module.
For sure.
Yeah. I get you there.
I like the Karamakos Gazetteer, actually. I haven't read them all, but I picked up that one for when running the OSE game, and it's like, I need to reference it a little more.
Yes, Adam, you're right. It's sad that Goodman Games won't be doing any more of those. And I think it's fitting that Dark Tower is the last one they do. I mean, they might do some more of the Judges Guild ones, so it might not be the last one. But I think that Dark Tower is a fitting one for them to be bringing out now. I'm looking forward to my copy of that arriving.
Yeah, I don't think Goodman Games is going to do any more TSR stuff, especially since WotC wouldn't give them PDF rights. Like Dark Tower, they'll have PDF rights, so they can really open up the market. Whereas the Goodman Games, the first 6 OAR, because they're the TSR modules, they didn't get PDF rights, so that's it. You can only get them in book format. I mean, you can get PDFs, through black sales, but
yes, yeah. I mean, when I ran the Goodman Games Lost City, I redrew by hand all of the maps. It took weeks. But I scanned them in to Roll20 because I ran it over Roll20. It was an absolute ball ache. But I was quite happy with the result. Because it would have been impossible to run straight from the book. Absolutely, because that's the problem with those big books. But I still think the books are wonderful. So, Veiled Society, thumbs up.
Absolutely.
yeah, I'll give it a thumbs up.
Yeah, thumbs up for me as well. Yeah, I think it's a good one.
I think it's funny that a lot of people discount it as a horrible module. I don't know what they were expecting, but I thought it was really good.
Yeah, because it's a dungeon. It's not a dungeon crawl. It's not your typical D&D adventure, but it is different, as you say. That's what makes it stand out. Is that it is different.
Yes.
You have to go in with a different approach.
As you say, I mean, the basic plot is linear, but it was new at the time, and that's fine. Hello, Kabuki.
I mean, there were other stuff that came out that were linear, and you're forced to go linear. This one, you can go sideways.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so we move on to the next one. And I'm going to admit this is one I don't know anything about. I'm hoping one of you two does.
Rahasia, yeah. I ran it once at age 14.
Oh, I'm sure you can give us a real in-depth rundown of it then.
I can tell you, I remember we liked it, but we were stupid and young. I haven't revisited it or even reread it. I grabbed the print on demand because I was making I was completionist. I wanted all the B series, but I haven't reviewed it again to try to run it again. So I'm going on how old am I now? I'm going on basically 35-year-old memories. So you'll have to forgive a little fuzziness, but I did like it. I mean, it's a Hickman. They've done other good stuff. They gave us Ravenloft. So I remember the puzzles, being frustrating to the players, but frustrating in a satisfying way, especially when they figured it out. I think looking back now, I can't say for sure. Somebody with a clearer memory might correct me, but I think you had to solve. Like the thing with Rahasia is once you're in, it's a gauntlet. You can't get out. You can't just can't just leave, recoup, and come back. You have to see it through. And I always have a problem with those style adventures, especially because they're usually overmatched the players. But I might be wrong, and I'm trying to remember it. It might just be the way we played it. Anybody?
Like so many games in the 80s, we played part of a module. I really enjoyed when I played it, so I ended up picking it up because I thought, okay, there's more to this than I know, and I think this is probably a really good module. So I picked it up to play it, to DM it, and I never got the chance.
Never got the chance, yeah. I haven't even reread it recently, so...
So we have some tentative positivity.
Yeah, I have good memories of it. We had fun, but also, I mean, I was 14. I was fudging things so the players could complete it. So the objective, how could they have done if I wasn't holding back? If I wasn't holding back and letting them win, how would that have played out? I don't know. So I'm going to abstain from voting. I remember it well, but I don't have anything recent to think about to contribute.
I had one of those horrible DMs that you all read about as a DM back then for it, but I still enjoyed it.
Okay. I mean, I say I know nothing about it. I am put off by the Hickman name being on it because I blame Hickman for a lot of things that went wrong with modules.
But this is earlier in the career, before they started screwing everything up.
Yeah. I mean, Hickman did do Pharaoh, which was good.
Pharaoh was good.
Ravenloft, which was excellent. He also did Dragonlance. Good setting, shame about the adventures. He also did Lost Tomb of Martek. Loads of great ideas put together in a horrible manner. So he was one of those where you liked him or loathed him, I think, sometimes, and he was quite patchy in what he did. I didn't like the fact that he rode roughshod over a lot of the game expectations in his adventures.
Right.
And for him, it was clear the story was more important than the game. So,
an attitude that pervades even today.
Yes. So, for me, I know nothing about it, and we've got some slight positivity from you two, but a little more tentative.
Only because I never got to run it.
Okay. Ian McDonald says here it's got lots of cool elements. The lower levels are very innovative and fun. The Elven Temple is pretty tough, and the teleporters could really mess things up.
It sounds like what I remember. It was the teleporters that screwed them up, but they loved it when they solved the puzzle. I didn't have to fudge that, but as always, it was the combats you fudged when you were a kid, so the players, your fellow kids, could feel powerful.
Yeah. There's Joker's lurking and chatting. The pseudonym of me. Hello, Joker. Michael says, I don't mind that the Hickman style came about. I just wish it didn't seem to come at the expense of setting-based modules. True. Yeah, okay. There should be options out there for people who enjoy all types of gaming. Yes, but it was very much at the expense of the type of gaming I enjoyed. So there we go. So we're moving on. Journey to the Rock.
It's absurd nonsense, but as I like to say, it plays better than it reads.
I will say I love the cover. I'd love to have it as a poster. I've read it. It reads horrible. I've DM'd it, and it ran equally as bad as I read it to be.
I will say I hate the cover. I think it's bland as hell. I skim read it, and I had no interest in looking at anything else to do with it. It just appeared to be rubbish.
It's overly simplistic and has sort of limited outcome. I really didn't like it. It's like it's this big journey to the rock, but really you're only going to face one of the things depending on the route you take, and then when you get there, it's really not very exciting.
Not very exciting.
You guys are not wrong. I just lucked out, and I had a group that played it and loved it. We all had a good time with it. But I agree. When I read it, I was like, "What is this?" But they can't.
So
all
we've
be
not got a lot of experience of running this one, and it's general negativity, I think, isn't it?
I'd like to know why it ran well for you, though. Like, what could I have done better?
I don't think it's a matter of running better. I just think it was the group of people I had. We were a fun-loving group. I had random encounter come up from my own chart, not from the module. That was a character that ended up becoming a recurring NPC. So we had a lot of good memories tied in with how this one played, and one character who you guys now know as Onion Bumble Stump, but this was way back when he first played D&D with us for the very first time, and he just got good rolls and he felt heroic, and it was just the circumstance of the table. So there's the nostalgia. Things just worked out, but yeah, it's not a well presented module, that's for sure.
Right, so there you go, chat. A bit of a thumbs down for this one.
Yeah, I could say you could, if you had a choice of this and something else, you could probably go with the something else.
Yes. Right. What's next, Mage?
Oh, which one? When was that one? Oh, your favorite. Oh, nice. Perfect. Your favorite module. Where is it? I've got the hard copy here. We are. Woo!
Okay, Mage, you start here.
So this one gets a lot of hate, and I understand the hate. It was rushed to print. I think with another pass with an editor, the scenarios could have been presented better, but they play well. And I love mini scenarios that I can put anywhere in a game. And this one's got 5 mini scenarios, only one of which is a bit of a stinker. The others work really well, and you only have to put a little bit of work to fix them up. So they're not bad. So I recommend this one only because you got 5 little scenarios. I always recommend little scenarios. Mini scenarios are gold for a DM, especially when you're short on ideas or short on time. So yes, I know you hate it, but despite its flaws, the scenarios in this one work.
I'm going to say that when they released it, they thought it was going to be a bomb because the guy didn't even sign his real name to it. Some guy called Harry Knuckles, which is obviously a joke. I always find it interesting that your copy and the one that he's put up there is far less green than mine.
Well, mine's a print on demand copy. Mine's print on demand. So,
I think it's other than, and I think we both agree that it's the one part of it that it's no good. And we're both agreeing the second level.
The Dungeon of Terror, yeah.
I would write that out. I think it's an excellent module. It's a great piece of a toolkit to have. Sometimes you need something shorter in between different things the characters are doing. So it's great to throw in there. If the TPK seems to happen, but it happened in such a way that you can say, well, you know what? None of you actually died. Guess what? You're in prison.
Mm-hmm.
That way they don't feel forced into prison, right? Because they're happy to be alive. Well, the other opportunity was, they all got wiped out quickly. I think as a toolkit, I think everybody should have this.
Now, my big criticism of each of the scenarios is the setup. The setup for each of the scenarios is typical of, basic stuff. It's like, oh yes, like the abduction of Princess Sylvia. The king's precious daughter has been kidnapped. So here, I'm going to send you first level mooks to find her. It's like, what?
Okay, but didn't we agree that was the case with every single early module?
Yeah, it's common. It's a common trope, but it doesn't.
We'll get to one where I'm going to say that's not the case, although kind of.
I'm still going to point it out later when it's silly, like something like Castle Caldwell. Okay, I need to hire mercenaries to clean this out. Fine, he's not going to be picky. He's going to take what he can get. But when the king is looking for people to rescue his princess, he's gonna leave the job to ruffians off the street who are just starting their career. He's not going to send the guard. He's not going to send knights. No, I thought that was kind of a funny setup there.
Yeah, and the fact that something like that could be accomplished by somebody who's basically a mook in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, but the adventure itself, set up aside, plays out pretty well. It's a good little.
I'm going to interject here. You mentioned it with a little bit of fixing up. I don't mind developing adventures. I don't mind being given seeds. I don't mind being given ideas to work with. I don't think I should be having to mend adventures in order to play them.
Okay, all we're saying is to say it's the king's daughter is ridiculous. It's the merchant's daughter. Problem solved.
Yeah, any change, just downgrade her status. That's what I did for you guys at Claricon. It was Lady Sylvia, right? And you guys weren't sent by the king. You guys were mercenaries who got a head start on everybody else, so you can get the reward. Boom. You know,
Shoddy maps.
set up, solve.
Shoddy maps, bland encounters, overly simplistic basic setups. Yes, it's mini adventures which you can drop in, but in my opinion, none of them are worth running.
Have you run them?
No, I don't want to. No, they don't inspire me in any way, shape, or form.
Which is what John and I have said about other modules, that it's hard to put down a module until you've run it. And this one runs really well.
They do, yeah.
It just doesn't inspire. It just doesn't inspire at all. The whole thing just feels lazy to me.
I don't know what to say to that because, you know, like there's a lot of little mini scenarios, not just from this, but like other that are great. They're equally lazy or equally basic, but it really comes down to when you're playing it. If you're prepped and you know what you're doing, the players don't know. They don't know what they're seeing. They're not looking at the thing, so they don't know it's not been well presented. All they know is what you're presenting to them, and the experience of the players going through stuff like this is usually just through the roof. They love it. I even Dungeon of Terror, which is the worst one, the players every time I run it, they love it. They have such a blast. So I don't know. There's something weird about this one that against all odds, it just works.
Okay. There's nothing about it that inspires me to ever want to read it again. That's the thing. I just read it thinking, what the hell is this?
Well, not everything is for everyone, I guess.
I think it's one of the worst products ever put out, personally.
Oh, it's worse than the Forest Oracle?
It's close to it. It's close to it. Yes, Undead Viking videos. I have run a lot of adventures over the years, and I don't like it. I don't want to run it. I've never run this. I don't want to run it. There's nothing about it that makes me think, pick this ahead of pick that one. Even if I've got a group that are utterly jaded on all the other adventures and having played them, I'll write something myself rather than try and fix this drivel.
I tried to convince you.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Now we move on.
Night's Dark Terror. Own it. Want to run it. Have yet to.
Unfortunately, I'm in the exact same position. I think the timing of a 2 to 4. I would have loved if they had a bit of a 1 to 4 going on. Just so that you hook the players in before they get busy with other stuff.
I have the PDF. I started reading it, then I had a DM express an interest in running it, and I'd liked it. I'd liked what I'd seen. I'd liked what I'd read about it. I'd liked what I'd seen from what I'd read. As I decided not to read any more of it because I wanted to play it, and it never happened.
This is also one of the fattest modules you'll ever pick up. Original.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's what, a 60-page behemoth?
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of it is cut out in giant maps.
I got the print on demand. Yeah, let me see. The giant maps. Yeah.
But that doesn't take away from what's in there as far as content goes.
It's Graham Morris. And Graham Morris, to me, is a module design genius.
Yeah, 56 pages.
Graham Morris is one of the best. And I doubt he's ever written anything that's properly published that was bad.
Yeah, I will say that. Sorry, go ahead.
So another reason why I wanted to play it, because I've run his adventures and they run really, really well. I'd love to run it, but I would much rather play it first.
Yeah, I would say that. It's just usually not an option. I will say that the printed one, the original one that came out, is even thicker than the one that you showed, because the cardboard cutouts are cardboard and thick.
It will cost you a pretty penny though to get hold of it with the cardboard.
Oh yeah, I
nowadays.
think I saw it on eBay for like $150.
I don't know that the cardboard is usable. I would like the full size maps. I wouldn't want the maps divided up on pages, which I understand. I think is what they do on.
They print on demands. Yeah, you'd figure they'd offer, even if it costs $1 or $2 extra, like poster maps. It's not like it's advanced technology, but
I mean, I think it's unfortunate that it came out a little late in the B series, because otherwise I would certainly have picked it up when I was younger and run it for my friends when I was younger. And for everything I've seen about it, everything I've ever seen written about it has been so positive.
It's good. It's really good. From reading it, I haven't run it for anybody, so I can't say 100% it plays well, but
the only question I would have is, I mean, from the purpose of like my OSE game, which is kind of a drop in West Marches style, how well would it work? Do you need a consistent group, or can you have a rotating cast?
I think you have to have somebody who's consistent.
Right.
It's in chapters though, isn't it?
It might be, yeah. I didn't read it. I picked it up, but I didn't get around to reading it.
Well, you got to have somebody who's there from the beginning.
Right. Okay.
I would say, right? From reading it, you got to have somebody who's there from the beginning. So if the party, wipes out, well, that was the end of that adventure, right?
Right.
I wouldn't go back to it.
So you just need Daniel to play it then. He's ever present in our OSC games with Angus, and there you go. When is somebody running it on Discord for us?
I will say 2 to 4 seems low. I wouldn't start that before level 3 characters.
Okay.
Well, I think if you had a group of 10 to second level, you could do it. But
yeah, but you'd need 10.
You'd need 10, yeah.
So this one gets a big thumbs up, I think.
It gets a quasi thumbs up. Like, it looks like it's going to run really well.
Yeah, I can't. I have no practical experience with it, so I haven't even read it. So
I've read bits, loved every bit I've seen about it, loved every bit I've seen written about it, and so want to play in it that I stopped reading it beyond the beginning. But I know how big it is. I know how much there is in there. It's a monster, quite literally.
And I think it would feel pretty epic when you're playing it.
This one, Manfred, was written in the UK, and it was quite late in the B series, but it was it was published in America.
I almost went back to D&D. I was out of D&D when this came out, and I was tempted to come back to run something just to run this.
Wasn't it given a wasn't it called B/X1 or something initially?
It might have been, but yeah, it was meant to bridge the transition from basic to expert and wilderness encounters and all that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd have to go get up and look.
Okay, so we can't say a lot about Night's Dark Terror, but what we can say is positive. I think that's fair to say.
Looks good. Definitely has a good reputation. So, yeah.
Okay. Moving on. We're coming towards the end of the B series. Does anyone know this one?
Yep, I run it.
I've never run it. I've heard good things about it.
I've also seeded it into my OC game. I was suggesting, hey, the King's Festival's coming. Nobody took the bait, but I liked it. I didn't mind it at all. It played pretty well. I ran it for an AD&D group, so different dynamic in terms of the characters. But the story's pretty basic. You have to rescue a kidnapped priest, otherwise the King's Festival won't get properly blessed or something silly like that. It's pretty paint by numbers, but it plays well enough. There's a dungeon. There's a mission. A little bit of intrigue. So
I think the only bad thing about this one is it's tied into, I think, the one that comes after it, and that one's
Queen's Harvest. Yeah. But it can be played on its own. You don't have to tie it to the Queen's Harvest.
Yeah, and I wouldn't, because Well, I will say that one's not very good.
Yeah, I haven't. I have Queen's Harvest, but I haven't read it. I haven't prepped it yet. So,
See, I never even looked at this because I was well into AD&D when all these ones were coming out. In fact, I was only with Basic initially for the first year or so, and I dabbled a little bit after that. But this was about 86, was it 86, 87?
I never discovered it until I was in my 40s. So I don't know when it came.
Right. Certainly one of the later ones, towards the end of the 80s. But I've heard positive things about it. I've heard people list it as being amongst the better basic modules. So it's something that I'm interested in playing. And I'm at the stage now where I've got so many adventures that I can draw on to run that there are a lot of them that I'd like to play rather than run now, if at all possible. Right.
Yeah, I recommend. I play it. I ran it once, but I want to run it again, and the experience was good. So.
I have seen the BX1 version of B10 on eBay UK. I wonder if there's money to be made on that. Anyway, yes, Manfred says, I suspect the UK modules are a little better than the US ones. I don't know. They were better at the time. I'm not going to say they were better than what came before, but given that they all came out around sort of 83, 84, 85, when TSR US had gone down the pan in terms of quality, the UK proved that you could still get good adventures. Right. Queen's Harvest next. You've already been a bit negative. No opinion.
No opinion from me. It's by Carl Sargent. He wrote Night Below, which is pretty decent, but
okay.
I have it. I bought the PD, the print on demand, but I haven't flipped through it yet.
Maybe as an AD&D module, it might pass, but as a D&D module, no.
So what is it that doesn't work? Like I'm coming in clean, so I don't know.
The Illusionists.
Illusionists? Okay.
Yeah. I don't want to wreck it in case people haven't played it and stuff.
Right.
There's a lot of gotcha moments that I don't like. Yeah. No, it's just it feels like the DM is trying to pull one over on the players. And that's the way you're supposed to run it. And I don't like that. I like to give the players the information. If they fall for mistakes, they fall for mistakes, but give it to them honest.
How
and this isn't designed that way.
How much effort to sort of
rewrite.
Soften, rewrite, not just
yeah, I don't
coming up with some clues. Okay.
I mean, maybe. I mean, you found a way of fixing the second level of Cadwell's Castle, and I thought that was just garbage. But
yeah, well, even fixing it isn't my favorite. So
fair enough. So we're quite negative about this one. I don't know anything about it.
I've been different. I don't know anything. So
what's chat say? Did they have any good experiences with it?
They've said nothing about this. I think which says it all. They're talking about the UK modules at the moment. So,
well, you're getting to those.
We will. Right. Okay.
In Search of Adventure. Well, we've pretty much covered all the content that's in that book, but I'll tell you my experience with Search for Adventure because I happen to have it. I'll pull it off my shelf. I'm going to do the bear thing, reach back to my shelf. This is the very copy I bought as a teen getting into D&D back in the 80s. There's pages falling out of it. And while it's watered down from the source, it doesn't actually have 1 to 9 in there. It doesn't have the full modules. As a kid, it was a gold mine because it had enough content to sustain me. It had adventure tracks where you could, a little flow chart where if you do one adventure, it leads into another adventure, et cetera, et cetera. So I thought it was fantastic. At the time, it was worth my $10 allowance to get all of that into one omnibus package. Now, I don't think that's as valuable now when you can get everything so cheap on PDF or print on demand. You can get the full things elsewhere anyway, but it was certainly great for me in the 80s, with limited funds, and I get, all these adventures in one book. So if you're going to hate the modules that are in there, you're going to hate them regardless, but there's some good stuff in there.
I think the problem I have with In Search of Adventure is that they keep some of the dross and drop important bits of other adventures.
You're right. They did. They're still playable, but they are obviously diminished.
Yeah.
And it's not complete. Like there's nothing of before in there. That's one of the reasons I've never played it, because Lost City, it wasn't in that book. Keep on the Borderlands isn't in there properly. Caves of Chaos are mapped out for you, but there's nothing else. So it's watered down for sure, but it was still a useful book to me in the 80s. But it's not one I would recommend now, just by virtue of what I said earlier there, that you can get all the other materials now for cheap enough that one little omnibus thing with the pieces missing isn't worth it anymore.
I say, I mean, I browsed through a High Seas PDF of this one. I have no intention of buying it. It didn't give me didn't make me want to buy it. I never had the original, and I'd much rather get the original modules of the adventures I enjoy rather than pick up watered down versions and have to put up with the nonsense. So it's not. I don't like it. I know it served a purpose, and as you say, for a kid getting into the hobby when you did.
Yeah, it was valuable, but as time has gone on, it has been rendered sort of moot.
Yeah,
because you can get everything, the full versions, complete. It
hasn't aged well, I think is the way to describe it. You ever had a look at this one, Nut?
Yeah, I think you guys pretty well covered it. That it's missing a lot of stuff, and the only good thing is it can kind of give you ideas on how to seed them together.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I see no value in it.
Okay.
But I came at a point where I already had the stuff earlier that I wanted, sort of.
Yeah, well, I remember picking it up. I was at a store and was looking at the modules that were available, and it's like, it was $10, right? And it's pretty much all the money I had. It's 1986, and I'm looking. It's like, well, I can spend $10 on this one. It'll give me a whole ton of adventures, or I can spend $10 on this other one for one. And it's like, I'll take the omnibus.
But it's not really B1 to 9. Like that's kind of a false advertising.
Brian's mentioned the flowchart. I mean, you mentioned the flowchart as well. I really don't like it when modules are retroactively stuck together. You know how they did with trying to make T1 to 4 flow into A1 to 4 flow into GDQ, and it doesn't really run properly.
Yeah, I think, like, especially today, you can go to different websites. I think one's called Mistar or something similar to that, that does a better job of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I understand it would have appealed to kids getting into the hobby for the first time, and as a pretty inexpensive way of getting a lot of easy material of varying quality, somewhat incomplete. It did its job.
Well, especially when the other ones weren't necessarily readily available. Right? You took what you could get. It's not like we had the internet. We couldn't just go on eBay and find stuff.
Yeah, you had to get it when it was released, or good luck.
Or, like there was a Games A Lot, which is now a defunct store, but it was right up the street from me. And, the guy would order stuff for me if it was available, but it wasn't always available.
True. Right, last one in the B series. And I'm going to say, I know nothing about this.
Oh, it was fun. It's not great by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a choose your own adventure. That's all. It's you take the pre-made wizard and you flip back and forth through the book, making decisions. And, I loved to choose your own adventures as a kid. So this one was like, oh, cool. Choose your own adventure D&D. Yeah. But I'm not going to say it's great by any stretch.
Yeah, I think they came out with an expert one first. Had like an elf on the cover.
No, that was Blade of Vengeance. That was a one-on-one meant for a DM and a player. This one is a solo, like literally it's a choose your own adventure. You're playing it by yourself. But they did come out with an expert one called Lathan's Gold.
I didn't like it for that. I didn't want to buy it just because of that. So I can't say.
Yeah, no,
it's not a D&D module. D&D is supposed to be played with people.
Exactly. It's not a D&D module. It's a choose your own adventure book.
But I got to say, before you leave the D&D stuff, you're forgetting one of the greatest D&D modules ever made. and that's the one that comes with the Beckme set.
Oh, you mean
If you want to teach players and a DM, the one that's in the DM guide in the Beckme set is probably the absolute best module.
Well, there's the choose your own bit at the start of the basic book, player's book, and then there's Castle Mistermere.
Yeah, but it wasn't called Castle Mistermere then. I don't think.
Not at the time,
no.
But
yeah,
that module, yeah, I think that is probably the best one. And because you're new to the game, read that thing to sort of teach you how to play. I think that's invaluable. And then you get introduced to Bargle and Alina, and that's going to stay with you for life.
It's funny, the dungeon manager just popped in when you started talking about the virtues of Beckme. So
absolutely.
Yeah, great little look at that, all of those ghouls that haunted my nightmares, and we got to do it. Where is she? Where's the
How do you
lady?
guys see all the chat and not just one person's chat? Because I'm sitting here trying to flip through stuff and it's a nightmare.
We're in StreamYards. There she is, Alina. Poor Alina.
Yeah, we're in StreamYard rather than in YouTube.
Yeah, I'm in StreamYards, but I don't see everybody else's chat.
Click on comments.
Yeah, on the right hand side, comments. Can you see it?
No, I'm not seeing it.
You don't have a channel. No, you should see it. Even without a channel, you should see it.
Comments, banners, brand, and private chat. Have you got those options?
No.
Oh,
I don't know.
Oh, wait. Yeah, I was on full screen, so I wasn't seeing that. Comments. Got it. Thank you. I'm an idiot.
But yeah, I fully agree.
But my opinions matter.
Absolutely.
I'm absolutely correct on them. Everybody else is wrong.
But yes, the Beckme books really did teach you well. They really did teach you well. Yes. Shh, about someone choking to death. There's a murder going on in my house. Right. So we move on from basic. What's the next one alphabetically? In the 1 to 4 range? Levels 1 to 4 range?
Well, clearly you've got the counter on Lost Island of Castanamere from the C series.
Oh, you recognize it down there. Okay.
I do,
okay.
Yes.
Yes. I'm going to start with General Nux. I don't know how much
never DM'd any of them, only played some of them.
Yeah, I have the PDFs, but I haven't prepped it or run it, so I've got nothing on this one.
So
you'd actually have to tell me what's going on in them for me to go, oh yeah, I played that.
Excellent news, Hungar. Hope you managed to spend more than a few weeks out of hospital this time.
You better be okay to come to Claricon, Hungar. We're expecting you.
Food must be better in the hospitals in the States.
Maybe.
No, I think the food is horrible. They want to shock you into getting better so you escape the hospital.
Oh, I'd never go back. I'd rather die.
Anyway, so have either of you played this one?
No, I know nothing.
How do you start?
Okay. The C series is the competition series. So the adventures in the C series can be a bit wonky. C1, Hidden Shrine of Tamoachan. C2, Ghost Tower of Inverness. They are very much sort of, they are your tournament adventures. So this was designed as a tournament adventure without any real tournament scoring system, with the worst named pre-generated characters I've ever seen. It's a 32-page adventure, of which probably 30% is adventure. The rest is massive artwork, background, and pull out bits and pieces. So you've got a really short adventure in there. It's some of the, given that about 13 pages of it is actual adventure, some of the encounter areas are an entire page of waffle.
I like waffles. Waffles are yummy.
The box text is badly formatted, and in a number of places overruns into the DM's bit. So you start reading out the box text and then realize you're reading out the DM stuff that's still in the box that shouldn't be.
Right.
Can I ask you guys, did you guys ever read the box text more than once?
Not more than once. Not more than once. The only interesting part of this adventure was as Michael says here, there's a group of creatures in it called Gingwatsim. Very silly name. Quite daft in their design, but quite intriguing. And they are worth mining. But the adventure itself is a series of ideas cobbled together in the most frustrating and annoying way possible. Some of the ideas are great, but they don't work together. And it's just one of the most unfulfilling DMing experiences I've had. A lot of reading, and a lot of prep, working out how it all goes together for about, I think I got 4 hours play out of it from start to finish. There you go.
But was it a good 4 hours?
Meh. There are some good ideas in there. There's a fantasy room, which is very interesting. But once the players realize they can just close the door and ignore it, then that's what they do.
Nope. Slam.
Yeah. The portal doors were fun as a player. A lot of work for the DM. My players hated the portal doors. Absolutely hated them. They weren't interested. Just weren't interested. Oh, great. All of the doors are teleporting portals. Oh, joy.
Yeah, I would not be a fan as a player. There's
There
only
are-
one thing worse than that, and that's save and die.
So we have a 32-page adventure, which is a tournament devised into 2 levels, each containing 9 encounter areas, spread over 13 pages. And the rest of it is nonsense. And some of those encounter areas are nonsense as well.
My way of understanding D&D is that it's not meant to be played as a tournament. And AD&D is written to be played in a tournament styles, which makes it wrong from the start.
That's not necessarily true.
No, you've brought up a lot of good points, and I might play AD&D if you were the DM, maybe, but
We'll get you in one day.
So my verdict, the other 2 haven't any experience of this one. I quite like the cover art, though. I think the cover art was quite intriguing, which is why I bought it. And when I was 13, 14 years old, I thought it was okay. But I've gone back and run it since, and that's when I realized it's rubbish. Okay, right.
let's not talk about your choice in cover art. I'll agree that this cover art's pretty good, but generally, you have no taste when it comes to art.
Yeah, Michael. Yeah, if anything, it's soured. Right. So my opinion is that is actually one of my reviews that has got more downvotes than any other, the most other reviews, because some people like it. If you like this one, then I don't trust your opinion on D&D Adventures. Right. Okay. Let's move along. Next one.
I love this one. I have played in it and I have run it, and it's always played well because it's my favorite. It's a setting-based scenario, right? So it's already got a lot going for it. So it's pretty good. I started my AD&D campaign with on the Lendor Island with this, the one that's evolved into my my Forgotten Realms game, because Lendor Isles are on the easternmost of Greyhawk's continent, and of course I decided to set my planet. All the D&D worlds are on my one planet. So basically, Greyhawk is America, Forgotten Realms is Europe, and the players decided, let's take a boat across the ocean, and that's why we're in the Forgotten Realms now. But we started here, and we had a good time. We went. I know you've got it up next anyway, but we did the L trilogy. L1, L2, and L3, which you don't have on here, but it was released with the Silver Anniversary set.
Yeah, I forgot to put L3 in. Sorry.
But yeah, it's the style I like. So naturally, I'm going to be inclined towards it. The setting based sandbox.
General Nut, any
I
idea?
played a bit of the first part of it, I believe. Is there a tower in the first town with a mage and a fighter, I believe?
No, you're thinking Village of Hommlet.
Yeah.
There is
okay.
there's a warrior, the Lord of Restonford. What's his face? Can't remember his name, but the Baron of Restonford is a fighter, obviously. But
Yeah, okay, that's the one I was thinking of, not this one. Sorry, no, didn't play it. Don't think.
For me, the Secret of Bone Hill, as you say, it's complete opposite of Lost Island of Castanamere. It's very much, I think, AD&D's Keep on the Borderlands in a lot of ways, more so than the Village of Hommlet, because there's so much in there. There's so many adventuring locations it provides,
right,
and it gives you a decent little town to play with. It gives you lots of interesting adventuring locations. I'm not a fan of Len Lakofka's writing style. I think he's a bit all over the place with the way he describes some things, but he gives you just enough to work with. And as a sandbox, it's not perfect, but it's interesting. And there's a lot of meat in there, a lot of material in there. There's a few odd bits that I'm not really a fan of. I'm not particularly a fan of his skelters and zombiers, the two
the merging,
the merging,
but they are different enough that they'll throw players off, which can always be fun.
They will, yes, of course they will. Yeah. I'll say that I'll come onto this more when it comes to L2, but I really don't like the way Lakofka named his NPCs. I think there's some appallingly named NPCs in there. They're dreadful, absolutely dreadful. But I think this is a very useful adventure because it gives you a massive low level sandbox, which is what a lot of modules should be.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's got more character to it than the Keep on the Borderlands.
Personally. Yeah, it's more fleshed out in terms of the setting and the people. Absolutely. The Church of Laredo, where you can go to gamble to get your people back.
Yeah, that sort of thing. Yeah. There are bits of silliness in there, little bits of dodgy logic. But I don't think it's perfect, but it's certainly deserving of a place in anyone's collection.
I would about names. Let's have a look. Let's see if we can give them some examples of NPC names.
Let's be fair though. At the time this came out, we were pretty young. I'm sure that all our names were pretty horrible too.
Yeah. They were. I think the names in L2 are better.
The Smith is named Smythe.
Yeah. Get L2 because you've got Willis, Phyllis, and Rillis. Different people in different locations. Yeah. Very, very silly. Anyway, I think this one gets I think this is a positive for Secret of Bone Hill. I think we're generally quite positive towards this one because it achieves what it sets out to do. In that it gives you a town, it gives you adventure seeds, it gives you interesting little locations to adventure. It's not perfect, not by any stretch of the imagination.
No, but it plays well. It plays well. It's classic.
Yeah.
It's definitely.
I think I think it could have done with a bit of a presentation overhaul in places. But
I think half of the classic modules could suffer from could endure an overhaul.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
Can I bring up the Dungeon Minister's comment about I named the fighter from Back Me the Kang. Let's say at least you didn't rip that one off from the Lord of the Rings. Just saying.
Which one of you guys downvoted my side of the stream? Come on, guys.
Oh, you've been downvoted.
I've been downvoted.
You've had a downvote.
They don't like me. I'm gonna hide my head in shame.
Oh, I wonder if I've got a downvote as well. Because I normally get one from somebody somewhere.
Somebody always downvotes somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Miserable bleeders. Because I've probably said something bad about their favorite adventure or whatever. Oh no, that's I'm not saying it. Saying chat, go and do it. But
that's true. Game of Thrones was stolen.
Yeah, there's none yet. Right. Okay. So yes, this is a positive.
I recommend it. Yeah. It can get a little wacky. There's some interesting things in there, but it plays well and it's a good setup. And if you are planning to run L2, definitely have your players living in Restonford and knowing the people. So that way, when the inciting incident of L2 happens, you're good to go.
Absolutely. Yes, Piglet, I can see your downvote. Now correct it straight away. I insist. Right. I don't care. But Bonehill is something, to be honest, when I was 13, 14, when I first looked at this, I didn't like it because it didn't have something to make me want to run it back then. Looking at it now as a more experienced DM, I love it. I like it a lot more.
So you should run this and seed in all the stuff from B9, and then you'll be in heaven. All the stuff you never wanted to run with a blue cover.
No, you should sit in front of a nice roaring fire with this on your lap, enjoying it, while feeding the fire with rolled up pieces of B9.
No, I think we're gonna save the fire for the Forest Oracle.
Yeah, okay. All right. Okay, so let's move on. L2. Best run in combination with L1.
It works better with L1 for sure.
Yes.
Especially if the players have a relationship with the Baron of Restonford.
Absolutely.
A lot of fun to play.
Yes.
When I ran it, it took us 4 sessions to complete it, and the first 3 sessions, not a die rolled. It was pure role play as they investigated and they talked. Sorry, not a combat die roll. There were other rolls, for thieves sneaking around, stuff like that. But it was fantastic. It played well. Although when you read it, you kind of look at it and go, as we always say, the presentation could have been a little tighter.
Absolutely. Yes. Hello, Nerdy Ogre. How are you doing? The presentation on this adventure was pretty awful. The
cover is hideous.
Yeah.
But at least those characters actually appear in the story.
They do.
Unlike a lot of modules where the backs and the fronts don't have anything to do with it.
Yes, people working out. Yes, this was the L series: Lendor Isles, Len Lakovka. There you go, Len, Lendor, L. There, it was all to do with that. But the problem for me, I love whodunits, and I like this adventure, but I can't be objective, truly objective, without picking it up on its mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a number of mistakes in there. Hello, Straw Len Piglet. We have a Len with us. Right. One of the biggest mistakes I found is there is no specific coordinated list of all the clues and where to find them. If you're running this sort of adventure, you need that to refer to. Just a summary of things that will happen and where the clues are.
That's not really a mistake. That's just they didn't have that.
Right? Yeah. It's an omission rather than a mistake. Yeah.
But I think it's a serious omission because you have to read it thoroughly several times to piece it together properly. And yes, you should read things several times to prepare them, but it does add to the preparation time. It's not an easy adventure to run. I'm going to say that now. You need to have a competent DM
You need to prep
This
it.
adventure.
That's one. If anything else, you need to prep because you have to know there's a timeline of things that happen. The players are on a ticking clock. You need.
There's
to
a
know,
lot of NPCs,
and each of them has motivations. You have to know who they are and who did the deed and all of that.
Yeah.
Our playthrough, the mayor, who of course is in on it, the players did not suspect her. It was brilliant, and so they divulged everything about their investigation to the mayor. But if you don't know that, if you haven't done your prep work, then how you play the mayor or any other character, any other suspect is going to be completely different. So
Absolutely.
this is one you really have to read cover to cover and put everything together.
And
Brian James is talking about building spreadsheets, so that's okay. There was no spreadsheets when these were coming out.
Yeah, it was hard work to run. Manfred, sorry to read all of that. Yeah, you are having a bit of a rough time of things, so hope things do improve for you. Really do. It's been no worries. Get yourself some sleep, Manfred. Look after yourself. Back to the adventure. What was I going to say? Right. It's an adventure that relies on the characters and the NPCs and the interactions with the NPCs. When I ran it, and my players were finding out the names of the NPCs and laughing at them because they're so bad, it spoils it a little.
Reaction roll, negative. What did you call me? Why are you making fun of my name? Huh? Pig? Huh?
Yeah. You could do it that way, but I think that spoils it somewhat. I think some more thought should have been put into the names to not make them sound quite so stupid.
Yeah, the guy named Martin, worst name ever. Lydia, Jesus, where do they come up with this shit?
Have a look at there's Willis, and Phyllis.
Oh, there's some examples in here. I'm just teasing you.
Yeah.
We have Crack the Armorer. Crack.
Yeah.
Beshkar. That's not a bad name. Olata. What else have we got here? Wilfong, Filmar. We got an Oscar. Worst actress.
Yeah.
Oscar the Midget Assassin. That'll go over well with this crowd, with the woke crowd.
Yeah. Yeah, Lydia's fine. But the names are silly, and in my opinion, I'm going to go Willis, and Phyllis again. But it doesn't help itself. The layout, it doesn't help itself with the layout, with things being dotted amongst the text. It really doesn't, which is a pain and a shame. It's a good adventure. It's ambitious. It tries something new. It gets a thumbs up from me, but just if you're gonna run it with L1, but be prepared to have to sit down with the pair of the adventures and work out how you're going to seed everything and how all the NPCs are going to interact, because it relies heavily on your work as a DM. You've got a lot of work to do this.
Yeah, and if the players have a good friendship, good relationship with the Baron of Restonford, it really enhances the experience, because now they have a personal stake in finding his murderer.
Yeah. Doesn't the town bard have a bit of a daft name as well? Balmoral,
yeah.
Bit of a daft name. Okay, anyway, so yeah, I think the L series, run them together. There are a couple of little series like this which they work better together. UK2 and UK3 are another example, which will come too. So let me just scroll my thing across.
Before I go across, I want to tell you my experience with running L3, the Deep Dwarven Delve.
Okay, yeah, do that, yeah.
The players rolled right up to the door. The guy cast Augury to see if there was an immediate danger. They sensed danger, and then they looked at each other and said, you know what, let's not bother. And they turned and left, and that was it.
Now, I know that Len Lakofka wasn't happy with the way L3 turned out. And because of that, I've never bothered with it. I know he was unimpressed with what they did with his work there.
Yeah, I think they just took notes and published it rather than let him finish it.
Yeah. I don't know anything about it. And that's probably why I forgot about it. And I think it's one of those ones that the less said about it, the better. Because it was.
But technically, I don't think it's low level. I think it's mid level. I'd have to look at it again. But
I think early TSR was very political, not political in a world geological.
Well,
in a world sense.
L3 was only published as a special edition for the Silver Anniversary set. It was never published and sold independently.
Yeah, I think the early TSR were very political within their organization, and then I think the takeover they just ran things stupid.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you there. I don't disagree. Okay, next one. We're going back to basic here. Any experience of Blizzard Pass? I have a feeling that I owned it but never played it. But I don't remember.
Is it a choose your own adventure one again?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, it's a magic viewer one.
Why would they call it M1? That makes no sense.
It was released as M Solo for Magic Viewer.
Right.
It was M1. It was M1, and then they started the Masters series, so they rebadged this as M Solo 1.
Okay.
Yeah, I never played this one.
So I don't think Nutty, have you ever seen this one?
No, I haven't played this one.
Anyone in chat know anything about this one? Who have you just renamed Saxius?
Oscar the Assassin.
Tried to name an NPC Oscar last Sunday. Forgot it's a player's ex's name. She complained, so he just renamed him Saxius. Saxius isn't even here, so yes, you can lay into him as much as you want.
I will agree with the Dungeon Master. A Dungeon Minister. I remember that cover as well.
I do, yeah. Matt says it's a great book if you want to start a thief. Yeah, it's a low-level thief solo adventure, isn't it? I think thieves level 1 to 3, I think it says on the top. But I don't know anything about it. I'm sorry.
I got nothing to offer. Oh, yeah. Now we're into the gold.
Absolutely.
Well, we've already been into some gold, but here's some more gold.
Go on then, Sean. Off you go.
Yeah, this one is great. This one, I think even you said in one of your reviews, the only problem with it is it's not a novice adventure. It requires an experienced DM to run it properly. But it's got the basics. You've got a town. You've got intrigue. A very deadly enemy, but it plays very well. So yeah, I definitely recommend this one. I ran it through my guys. They ended up getting right up to the big boss at the end and then losing. It was a big climactic fight, all because one character broke the plan and decided to charge forward instead of staying in formation. It was great.
Cheers, Dungeon Minister. Supper time and the liver is greasy. Enjoy. But no, Nutty, have you experienced this one at all?
Yeah, I played it with a subpar DM, but I had a load of fun. And then later years, I read it and went, oh, okay. Yeah, as far as plot lines went and the understanding what was going, we were just lost. We just seemed to find our way from point to point, killing stuff, but it was fun.
Yeah, I love this. I love this adventure. But Sean's right in that. Why the hell did they put this as the first in the N series, novice series? It's not a novice adventure. It's not for novice DMs. It's not for novice players. It's hard to run well. It's tough as anything. It's a real proper challenge. Tons of NPCs, tons of working parts.
Yeah,
but it's great when it comes together.
I wonder if you're supposed to play like the first part and then sort of come back to the second part.
It is designed to be a slow burn. Like it's meant for AD&D, and there has to be timelines and breaks where you can go and level up. They even say that in the module. They say that players need to be able to travel to Orlane to level train and come back. But things are still happening while they're doing that. So they give you a little timeline of, okay, if somebody's gone for a week, then this person is taken by the cult, and so on and so forth. So you have to track time carefully, but it is designed so that you can level up. So it is a slow burn. You're not going to be solving the mystery overnight.
It just seems like it ramps up in difficulty really quickly, and I don't think the characters keep up.
It does. It's arguably it says it's for 4 to 6 characters, level 1 to 3. If you go into this adventure with 4 level 1 characters,
you're done. You were done.
My last party,
dinner. Your naga food.
My last party went into this. Each player had 2 characters going into Orlane. I said to them, "You're all going to play one at a time. The other 5 are going to be staying at an inn." One of the groups were wiped out in their entirety. The other 5, one of them died. They did get to the end and they succeeded, but only because they won over the old mage. And I have no problem with it. People complain about this powerful NPC helping them. He can be a hindrance as well. He really slows them down. He can play him up as a belligerent old sod who is very frustrating. They'll get wound up with him. And it does say he'll use his magic sparingly. But he had got his fireball at the end. Well, he had got a powerful spells at the end, and he did take the Naga down to low hit points, and then the players rolled very well against the Naga. So it was a little anticlimactic, but they still enjoyed that. It. But one thing I will say, if you've ever seen Father Ted,
No, I know of it, but I've never watched it. The show, right?
Yeah, watch the TV show Father Ted. There's a character in it called Father Jack, an old drunken priest who's utterly mad. Play Ramney, the old mage, as Father Jack. If your players know Father Ted, they'll love it.
I'm not racist. That one?
Yes. Yes. Play Ramney as a drunken, insane old man, and have him demand drink before he does anything for them, and it'll make it even more fun. I love this adventure. I think it's great. It's investigative. To me, it's more polished than L2, with a little less invested on the investigation side. But they have these similar aims. But this one had a little more polish to it. But I think L2 has more potential. But it's harder work. It's 2 adventures in a similar vein. I like them both. But this is a good one. This is a good one.
But this one, no novices. Don't ignore the novice label. This is for advanced DMs and players or experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I agree with Kabuki. Your characters, I mean, if you're going to run it for first level, fine. But it's best done if characters already have a level or 2 under their belts.
The way I got around it for my group is, it says in the adventure that the elves will hold back a lot. I had the elves be a lot more forthcoming with their help.
Right.
I didn't have the elves go into the dungeon with them at the end, but in the town, the elves would show up when the party needed help. And that's the only way they succeeded. Okay. Here we go. I think this is probably the moment that a lot of people have been waiting for. Are you ready?
Wait, Straw Piglet has a question. And I'm going to say B6. I think you can survive on B2. And B9.
There are plenty of modules you can survive so long as your DM doesn't put you in situations you can't get out of. So long as you're allowed to nope out of any given situation, you can survive any time.
Yeah, if you run away. I say UK5 is another one where you can survive. I think you can survive in T1 if you don't play it as one to rush to the end.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be very, very ingenious. Of the low level ones, treasure hunt. You can survive that. But we'll
I was thinking more the average to below average player could survive it. Like, smart players can survive just about anything.
Yeah. But I think average to below average players in early D&D weren't meant to survive. Right. Yeah, Silver
Hit
Princess.
the button, John. Hit that button.
Are we going to hit it? Are we going to hit it?
We can all vomit at the same time. Bleh. I have actually run this one. I attempted to fix it and run it, and even with the fixes, it was like even the players like, "What is this shit?" So we're like, "Yeah."
People do say it is a fixable adventure, and I'm going to reiterate what I said earlier in the stream. You do not buy a module to then have to dissect it and fix it. It's supposed to save you time.
I disagree in that I expect I'm going to tweak and change modules. It's the degree of which you have to fix something.
Tweaking and changing is fine, but having to fix it, having to work out why it doesn't work, and having to come up with ideas to make it work, to release a product that is as shoddy as this one, it doesn't work. So many of the encounters are nonsensical. The maps are atrocious. The writing is atrocious. It's inconsistent. Whoever wrote it has no idea of the mechanics. It's just appalling. Absolutely appalling.
Well, let's remember, too, that the guys at TSR, none of them were playing the released versions of D&D. They all had their own versions. So a lack of understanding of the mechanics isn't really a big deal.
This one is marred by bad writing. It's more than just not understanding the game. It's the presentation is so awful.
I was sorry. I didn't mean to be saying this module had potential or anything. I wasn't. I wasn't trying to save it. I was just trying to point out the fact that they all played their own versions. So
everything about this adventure was bad. There's not one redeeming feature. Nothing. The cover is one of that particular. It's one of Parkinson's worst works.
The goblins are the right color.
I don't have a problem with it, with the cover.
The internal artwork's bleh. The internal presentation is bleh. Why did you think to try and rewrite the surprise mechanics? Do you remember that encounter?
I've tried to block it from my mind, but
and the nymph by the pool,
the pond. Yeah, it's like why doesn't she just solve the problem herself exactly?
Yeah. There were actually that happens in a lot of modules where they try to rewrite a basic rule, and I think that's a really bad idea because then it confuses the players, and it feels like you're trying to pull one over on them. It's like, we've always done it this way, but in this particular session,
it's going to be this, yeah.
And what about that map? That one map where you can just go straight through the middle all the way through and not encounter anything.
Well, I'll defend that in that, if you're looking at it as a whole, you'll go, what the fuck? But players who don't know the map, who come to a fork, aren't necessarily going to know they can just keep going straight. They're going to say, oh, do we go left? Do we go right?
But there's no benefit whatsoever from going left or right at any of those places. Nothing. Nothing about
time waster. I know. I'm just saying
it's complete time waste. Yeah.
From a map perspective, that's not terrible, but they didn't do anything with it either, as you say.
It's a time waster, but you have to use resources.
Yeah, it's not that big though. There's nothing in the cave until you get to the end, but just the cave on itself, where the path is linear and the branches, I don't mind that because the players not knowing where to go have to pick a direction, and so if there are consequences to going the wrong way, fine. So that can be made to work. So that's one of the least sins of this module.
At every junction, the correct route is straight on.
It's straight, yeah.
Yeah, but would you do that as a player?
Probably not. It's still awful design. It's still awful design.
Yeah, I mean, if you could spend that much time and just create your own adventure, and you're not really stealing anything from it in the end.
I mean, how much were
that's not really
adventures?
worth it.
It was what, £6, which would have been about $8 or $9, $10 in America when it came out. If you, Dave Mills says here, I felt ripped off 10 seconds after removing the cellophane. Yeah, you spend money on a product for it to feel like something that you can inspire you, something that is better than you can do homemade. There is nothing in this adventure that a 14-year-old could not do better.
I think the creator was a 14-year-old.
Yeah, I'd say the stuff we came up with on our own was probably better than this.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, so if you hadn't guessed, the Kabuki, the entire editing, there are a few of them which give different level requirements. I mean, A0 does that, and I think does N3 do that as well? I think it does, the next one in the series. But yeah, there's a few that do that. But this one, the editing throughout this one was awful. Absolutely awful. Oh, the were-rats.
Yeah, the were-rats. They were awful.
Were-rats with sleep spells, infinite sleep spells.
John, you got a half hour to pumpkin. How many modules you got left?
Oh, we'll do this another time if necessary.
Okay.
I just want to insult this adventure as much as possible. This is, I think it's the worst adventure I've ever read.
Well, to quote Mr. Horse, if you're familiar with Ren and Stimpy, no, sir, I didn't like it.
No.
Haven't played this one yet. I have it because I bought the N bundle off of Drive-Thru, but I haven't played this one yet.
I haven't played it either. I know that this one quotes a different level inside than it does on the cover. And it feels like the encounters are not beginner encounters, because I've read bits of it. And I was like thinking, hang on. Low-level characters? Ooh, this is rough. But I've never studied it, so I don't know whether these are things that the party have to fight or not. So it might be excusable there. It didn't grab me. Didn't grab me enough to read it properly.
Is this the one that has the guy sleeping and it's the mirror that's keeping him sleeping, and then if you can get him out of the room with the mirror, then he'll wake up?
I don't know.
I haven't read it, so this one's a blank slate for me. I offer no opinion.
Yeah. So I'm afraid we can't give an opinion on this one. I was put off by N2. Halakar, the mere fact that you've owned this one forever and you've never felt the need to run it, I think is slightly telling.
I don't think so. I don't think that means anything.
Yeah, I've had it for a while, and you know, I do want to run it. I just haven't. I've got so many that I just haven't looked at it.
I had V10 since the day it was released, and I've never run it, but doesn't mean that I don't want to run it, and that I don't think it probably has.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take that back. I was wrong to say that. Okay. I don't know enough about Destiny of Kings.
Yeah. Moving on. Treasure Hunt.
I have run this.
So have I.
Nope.
I didn't do it properly. I didn't do it with the 0 level and all that. I just threw my regular PCs in through it, and it was still challenging enough. I don't think I'd run it again. It's truly a novice module. It teaches the DM how to do things, and it teaches players, because you start at 0 level and then you have to choose your class as you go. I don't necessarily like that format, but I get it as a teaching mechanism. It's very railroad. And you know, so as a teaching module, fine, you'll get a pass, but it can be made to work as a normal story, normal module, but ultimately I don't think I'd go back to it.
I ran it as intended with 0 level characters, and it worked. It, as you say, it did what it was meant to do, which is, and it bizarrely, for me, it was the first one in the N series to do that. So the novice series had to get to module N4 before it actually came out with a novice adventure. It's not difficult. I say not difficult. It's got challenge to it, but your players have got to be quite careful.
Yeah,
which is not surprising because then they're not going to be very.
it's
strong.
got the toughness of a normal module. So especially when you're still at the 0 level phase, you got to be very careful.
I think it's only got that toughness if they make mistakes.
But they're novice. It's meant for novice players. They're going to make mistakes.
Is it made for novice players or novice characters?
Both.
Both. Yeah.
And there's enough help in there for novice DMs as well. As you say, it is linear. The actual adventure itself is, as you'd imagine for 0 level characters, not the most inspiring. But it's not terrible. I think I reviewed it and gave it about a 6 or 6.5 or something like that. But somewhere very middling. It does what it achieves. It tries to do something worthwhile. It succeeds in doing that, but it doesn't do anything more. It doesn't offer anything really memorable. But by itself, it is an enjoyable little diversion, and it is the 0 level character rules. They work, which is something to give it praise for. It tried something new, and it managed to pull it off. I can see it falling a bit flat if you run it with first level characters, because the adventure isn't, it isn't particularly inspiring, but it's okay. It's not horrible.
It's funny that you say it that way, because I've never played this. I've never GM'd it, never read it. But from reviews and what people say, out of DMs, I'm going to say 75% of them love it. 25% of them hate it, and I've never heard a player comment on it.
Okay,
so you're saying it's not so bad.
Yeah, it's not so bad, but I won't run it again. I don't have the need. I don't think.
Yeah, I think I'm the same there. I have run it. I didn't mind. I quite enjoyed running it. Most of my players enjoyed playing it. One of them had only really just got into D&D, and he only really played 5th edition. And he wasn't inspired in any way by the fact that he was no longer playing a hero. So in hindsight, it was the wrong adventure to run him through. The rest of the group, they did enjoy it, which says something for it, because it was a different challenge for them. It's not bad.
But 5e isn't hero; it's superhero.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Okay, so Treasure Hunt gets it's one of those, it's a tentative. If you want to try something a bit different, it gets a slight thumbs up. But
tentative recommendation, but yeah.
Tentative. Yeah. It's not the best written of adventures. It's a bit too linear.
Under Illifarn. I have this one. I've looked it over. I haven't run it. It looks good enough. It's, again, setting based. I do like the fact that they address the 1st edition training rules. That's the only module I've ever seen that does that. But I have no practical experience with it. I haven't played it. Closest I've come to doing anything in Daggerford is the Daggerford download pack from Neverwinter Nights.
I'm put off running this by my disdain for the Forgotten Realms. I've read it. It is a nice cover, yeah. And I thought it might appeal to you, Sean, as it's five separate adventures.
Mm-hmm.
4 separate adventures, 5 separate.
I flipped through it. It's the kind of game I like to run. It was just a matter of, it's the setting. It's like, okay, if I'm starting a campaign, it's one of the settings I might choose to do, but ultimately, if I don't choose that setting, then we're not running that game, right? And
yeah.
I've done other settings, so it's just one I haven't gotten around to. I probably will, but it looks good so far. And again, I like the fact that they address the training rules. You know, most people just throw the training rules out the window. I like the training rules from First Ed. So,
have you seen this one at all, General Nut?
I've seen it. I haven't read it or played it.
Okay. Well, what I like about it is that the first 2 or 3 adventures are quite they work with the novice series. The first two or three adventures, they fit very nicely with the novice theme. They're good little short, low-level adventures that encourage role-playing. They encourage you getting involved with NPCs. There's a lot of interaction in there. They're good little scenarios. But I think it goes off the rails towards the end. Look at some of the items that are present and some of the encounters that are present in the 5th adventure, for example. They're insane. It goes, yeah, that's a decent little adventure. Yeah, it's a decent little adventure. Yeah, it's a decent little adventure. And here are all my other ideas that really don't fit, and I'll just fling them in. So it starts off well, doesn't finish well. Use the first few bits, fine. They're pretty good. But the latter half of the adventure is rubbish.
So you're saying if you got it for free, it'd be worth it?
Yeah. Well, the first 20 pages or so are really good.
Here it is. Print on demand. They had it on special for $4.
That's it's worth that.
$4 Canadian.
It's worth that. Yeah.
2 cups of tea at Timmy's.
So it's not terrible. Most of it's all right. Most of it's pretty good. And I know I've seen quite a lot of people say they really like it. It's just that end bit that it doesn't finish well, which is a bit of a shame.
It's on my list. I'll run it eventually, but it looks good. So,
hello, you're wrong. We might be wrong.
What about my wrong?
It's a good name.
Yes, it is. It is. Right. Okay. Moving on to one we're going to have quite a lot to talk about, I think.
The Village of Hommlet. Yes.
Okay. Who wants to start on this one?
Well, my second ed campaign, I started my group in Hommlet. Well, sorry, part of my second ed campaign. I had been running the world for several years, but the most recent player group, the one that saw it through, I started them in Hommlet. I didn't do the setup where they were arriving poor and bedraggled. I changed the setup in that they were members of the community of Hommlet. But otherwise, I still played it as it was. They just knew the NPCs. They weren't strangers to town. And yeah, it's magnificent. It's a great setting, detailed as hell. The only downside is that the moat house, it's not one that the players should go to immediately. You really need to seed it with other adventures. It's a setting that you need to add in other stuff before they find the moat house. But it's magnificent. The details for the NPCs, the setup of the town, it's fantastic.
Yeah. General Nut?
It's a classic. What else can I say?
There you go. Yeah, I mean, I agree with Sean there. When I first picked this up as a teen, I didn't like it because it didn't tell me what to do. Mm-hmm. I expected a low-level adventure to help me as a young fledgling DM, and it didn't. When I reread it again as an adult, I was like, what was I missing? This is great. It's not for novice DMs. You've got to work. You've got to learn your town. You've got to learn the individuals. There's little motivations, and you've got to develop those. And yeah, the town could be a little bit confusing. The moat house is an excellent adventure location. I prefer it to the Caves of Chaos in a very similar B2 as an adventure location. I know there's not as much meat there, but I think there's more variety in what is. I think it's a more classic adventuring location for me. And
I think it's got more meat all around.
I think the moat house. The slight issue I've picked up on with this, though, the town is actually quite a challenge to run for a DM because you've really got to get into the NPCs.
Mm-hmm.
The moat house is really easy to run. It's a very simple little dungeon to run, and it's very satisfying. And when my players went through it, it inspired them to come up with some great. One thing I like about Gygax's dungeons is when my players were playing through his dungeons, they didn't know they were his dungeons, but they always came up with interesting solutions because the way he seeded little things around the dungeon, the way he placed things. Those onrushing zombies, or the on-shuffling zombies, my group had just discovered the cache of weapons and just avoided the green slime on the stairs. Did Gygax do that on purpose, put all those there? I don't know, because my group decided to grab the javelins and spears from the cache of weapons, dip them in the green slime, and use the green slime to melt the zombies. Which was lovely. I love it when my players do things like that. Interact with the environment, use the things they found to turn what seems to be an overwhelming encounter into a cakewalk. I think that's how it should be.
I have a question. Something you're saying kind of bothers me in a sense that these modules or whatever, they're not made for beginning DMs and stuff.
Some
or
are, for sure.
unskilled DMs. Is that really a problem with the module, though? That's the problem with the guy trying to run it, the DM.
Oh no!
I mean, we were young, we screwed up a lot, but
I'm not saying this is a problem with this module at all. I think it was a slight misconception that it was a starter module. It was starter for the players, but it certainly wasn't a starter module for the DMs. But I know when I was young, a lot of people just saw the level range on it and assumed it was for beginners, and it's not. So I don't know.
Well, no, I think you needed a lot of early level stuff because you'd run through it. You know, characters would get so far and they would die, and you needed new first level stuff, right? And a lot of those new players, they're not new players at level 1; they're new characters.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. But whenever I've run this for my players, it has been they've been pretty new players to the system. Whenever I've used this, so it might be why new players often come up with some of the most inventive solutions, which might be why they thought about melting zombies, which I thought was great. One thing I do like about it, though, as well, is the scope for expansion, the scope for development, and the scope for just being an ever-present part of your campaign. Hommlet's got a lot of scope for development. It's got good NPCs in there that can work with the players going forward. My group wanted to take control of the moat house and redevelop it, which was nice. They saw potential in it, and these are this is why I think it's there's such a lot in this adventure in such a short module. I think it's great. I think it's
There's
really,
a lot
really
of intrigue for sure. You know,
Absolutely.
you can mine it for role play immensely.
Yes,
I like the town setting better than the keep for a believability sense. The keep just kept bringing up questions to me like, how is this possible? How is this possible?
That's half the dungeons we've reviewed, even the good ones.
Yeah. So I think Village of Hommlet gets a big thumbs up.
Oh yeah, it's a thumbs up.
A big thumbs up. It's so much better than T2, 3, 4 as well.
So going back here, Analyst Prime had a question. He says, important question for these modules for starter characters is when your party returns to their old hometown, does it still work as a setting? Some modules aren't setting based, so it doesn't matter. I guess it depends on the module and depends on the setting.
Yeah. Hommlet does.
Hommlet, for sure. It's a setting that can last you a campaign.
My group, when they played through this, they weren't complete novices. They weren't complete novice adventurers. They were new to AD&D, but they just finished UK5. I had them basically the campaign started with them being scooped up by the rock in UK5, dropped on top of the mountain, and they escaped the mountain, and they got to Hommlet. Hommlet was the first village they came to. So they'd got a little bit of adventuring experience.
I'm going to say Jay Tyler put up there, we cut our teeth on homebrew as DMs. And I think that's very valid.
Yeah.
Before most of us were spending money on modules, we'd played and created our own stuff, right?
I know I'm an oddity here. I didn't. I started with modules.
Yeah, I started with modules too. I got Keep on the Borderlands right off the bat. Yeah, I'm trying to remember where I got my Keep on the Borderlands, because apparently it didn't come with the red box, but I distinctly remember getting it with my red box. So it was like, where did I get it? I had to go out and buy B1, but B2, I was like, where did I get my copy of B2?
I wonder if it was like a promotional thing that they gave it to you, or did you buy it new? Was it a return?
No, I bought it new. It was sealed, so maybe it was just maybe it was packaged in. Maybe it was a Canadian thing. I don't know, but
I mean, I didn't get it with B1 in Canada,
right.
but I got B1 pretty close, or I got Back Me stuff pretty close as it came out.
Jay Tyler, I played around with those random rolling dungeons and what have you, but my problem was when I went to a school a long way away from my house, 12 miles away. It took me an hour to get to school, an hour to get back. It was a train journey, and all my friends there who played D&D were dotted all over the city. We managed to get to meet up for gaming 5 or 6 times a year. So when we met up, we would meet up for a whole Saturday, and it would just be a case of, here's a pre-gen characters, we're playing this module today. We didn't have it. We didn't have the cohesion, the social cohesion, to put together a cohesive homebrew campaign at all. It was just, but I know it was me being different to how a lot of players were in America. I went to a private school here in Britain, and my friends weren't within cycling distance. We'd have to jump on a train and arrange to meet up in Birmingham City Centre. We'd all meet at a McDonald's or the Games Workshop in Birmingham City Centre, then jump on another bus or another train to go to somebody's house. It would take 2 hours to make it to someone's house. We'd get there for about 11 o'clock. We'd then have about 5 hours of play, and then their parents would come home and kick us out, and then we'd have 2 hours of going home again. And half of that time was spent messing about as well. So that's how, unfortunately, how I had to play.
Yeah. As a kid, we couldn't keep a campaign going because we were stupid. We'd get bored easily. It's like, we'd play 2 sessions and I'm done with these characters. Game would just fall apart.
All our AD&D stuff, we usually died in the first or second room. So a lot of these, I might have played the first or second room, but that's about it.
Yeah.
We were all 12 or 13 years old. So, and when I did get my one local guy who I played a lot with, he'd run basic D&D. I'd run AD&D adventures for him, but it was just us controlling the whole party, and that just ended up in carnage all the time because you can't properly formulate ideas when it's just one person controlling all the players, and you're both 12 years old.
Yeah,
and you're trying to get to grips with the mechanics.
I think we started out playing 2 characters and then quickly evolved. Everybody just played 1 character so they could concentrate on 1 character.
Yeah,
which is probably why we never turned around and got hirelings.
Yeah, I was 12 when I started. So
I was 13. But
right, so Village of Hommlet gets a massive thumbs up, and it's so much better than what they did, what they got from Temple of Elemental Evil afterwards. Right, here we go. We're in the last 13 minutes of this stream. This is going to run over to another stream, so we're going to have to go to mid-level. So,
marvelous. Absolutely marvelous. We should just do the rest of the stream doing the Michael Rosen now. And I went to the fridge and it was peach syrup. I drank the lot. No? You don't know the Michael Rosen clips in poetry?
Nope.
No.
Oh, God.
No.
What am I going to do with you guys?
Uncultured heathens, aren't we?
Yes, you are.
So, how many times have you run it or played it, Sean?
I have played in it twice by the same DM, and I've run it about 3 times, I think.
Okay. Nutty?
3? Yeah.
I think I played it twice with 2 different DMs.
Okay.
The first time was, the typical dead right away, and then the second one, we got quite a bit farther in.
Got farther, yeah. Same.
We never finished it because I think that person had to leave for the summer or something, and that was the end of it.
We the first time the DM tried to run me through it, we got killed. We got butchered really quickly, and then it was like a year or 2 later. We did it again, and we got all the way into U3, and we nearly beat the Sawajan. We nearly got them. Dice didn't cooperate, and we lost. But Yes.
Suck up.
Yeah.
But this one's
He is a
fantastic.
good, very good team.
The only thing I would say, and it is a small quibble, but is that it would be nice if it gave you a little bit of details on the town. It doesn't develop saltmarsh. So if the module was a little thicker and you got a good layout for saltmarsh, it would be fantastic. But that's a quibble because you can do it yourself. The 5th edition update, Ghost of Saltmarsh, actually does lay out saltmarsh. It's actually pretty well done.
We'll mention this when we come to U3. Ice Storm works underwater, doesn't it?
So does Lightning Bolt. That's how we nearly won.
Yeah. Oh, all the Sawajin babies and the mums, and an Ice Storm, and a frozen hatchery. Oh, that was a little. I enjoyed that moment. I did enjoy that moment. Right. Okay. Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh. You're right. It doesn't have anything about Saltmarsh in there. The background is a little limited, and it has a gotcha with rock grubs twice.
I think with the one encounter with the rot grubs is it's not a gotcha in that if you just tap the body and step back, they emerge.
Yeah,
and we actually did that, and the DM was like, because we hadn't read the module, so the DM there was like, oh, okay, well, that's smart of you.
Yeah.
But.
And the only other criticism is perhaps the design of the haunted house doesn't quite fit into a medieval setting. Can you tell I'm really
You're scratching for reasons to nitpick, yes.
I'm scratching for reasons to nitpick because I've run this now, I think it's 5 times. I played through it twice with the same DM. The first time a random wandering giant weasel killed my party, and I played through it again. He let me start again. I absolutely love it. It's probably my favorite adventure of all time, simply because it's just never let me down. And it's been played in a different manner by every group I've ever run through it. It's been approached in a different way. That same house, that same boat. You think, you as a DM, you sit and look and think, how are players going to go about doing this? Every group I've ever run through this has done it differently. And as a DM, I've had to react differently and I've put in my own little flourishes, my own ideas. The last group I ran through it, I decided to make the harmless mushrooms that were in one of the rooms hallucinogenic. So what they did, all the barrels in the basement, they picked all the mushrooms and put them in the barrels in the basement, and then went and left the house, and then came back when all the smugglers were stoned. Marvelous, just absolutely marvelous. Love it. I love it when players think like that. I love it when the game turns out like that. I loved it as well when a player who knew the module offered to join just so he could play the part of Ned. And he played him wonderfully. He played him brilliantly. And it was so much fun.
The players who don't know are more or less likely to suspect them. If it's another player, you just say, "Oh, I contrived his entrance." It's brilliant.
Absolutely. It was superb. It was great fun, and all the players. I mean, Dave said he played in it. There was a group of about 5 or 6 players, and the feedback I got from those sessions was great. And it's as much due to Graham played in it as well as much due to the material. It's not all down to my DMing. It's down to the material as well. The fact that the material inspires me. The material is flexible. There's stuff there for the players to work with. I had one group who discovered the rock grubs that were in a tub near the body and used those. They tempted the smugglers. They made sure the smugglers knew they were there. The smugglers were running up the stairs, and the party just tipped all the rock grubs onto the stairs. Fantastic. U for underwater. Okay. U for underwater. Because the whole series ends underwater. So it is a wonderful adventure. It is okay if you're into really silly, fantastical stuff that goes overboard with all comical elements and whatever. You have to craft your own, really. It is quite low fantasy ultimately. but it still works.
I think that style of adventure works better in D&D because craziness always ensues anyway, just from the player's side, no matter how serious you start with it.
Here's one other thing. The adventure is written in 2 parts. Both parts are location based. Yes, there is an event that brings the location to you for the second part, but it's built in a roughly 2-week gap between the two. If your party play sensibly and thoroughly in the first part, most of them will have enough XP to get to level 2. And they've got, and if they're sensible, there's just about the right amount of treasure to train for level 2. And then there's a neatly built-in 2-week gap before chapter 2 starts. And if you go into chapter 2 with level 1 characters, you're dead. Are you getting where I'm coming here? How it's structured? How despite being incredibly flexible, it has the structure in place to take you at the right sort of pace, assuming you're doing all right, to achieve your aims. It's the pacing of it is perfect. Absolutely perfect. So there we go. Yes, you was underwater. Yes, yeah. So do you think this one gets a plus or a thumbs up or a thumbs down?
Clearly, we all hate it. So let's just
Absolutely.
scratch it,
Yeah,
move on.
Yeah. Another nitpick. The cover gives away the plot.
Our DMs never showed us the covers or anything. We didn't even know what we were playing ever.
Well, that's just it. You know, it doesn't matter if the cover gives away the plot because you shouldn't be showing them to the players.
That's true.
It's for the DM.
Thing is, this was a UK written adventure as well. It did feel British in the way it was written, and a lot of the descriptions in there, the level of detail and love that had gone to the description of the boat, all the correct terminology for places on the boat felt authentic. They felt like proper smugglers. It was just great. Really, really good. So there we go. Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh. Huge thumbs up. Huge.
Danger at Dunwater.
Off you go. You want to go first?
So yeah, it's a weird one. It's good. I mean, well, I won't mince words. It's good, but you can't expect to play it like your standard dungeon crawl. It's heavy on the role play. You go into the Lizardmen lair to talk and to negotiate. And if it's going to be a dungeon crawl and it's going to be combat, you're likely to get it wasted. But you might gauntlet your way through and get a lot of treasure. But it's not really meant to be played that way. It's a what's the word I'm looking for? A diplomatic scenario. So you can finish it in 20 minutes. The rolls are right, or you meet the right person, you finish it in 20 minutes. But it's interesting. It can teach players to realize that, just because they're not human or demi-human, you can still negotiate with people. You got to figure stuff out. So there's a level of intrigue. So it's just different. You need to go in with that mindset. It's like, it's not a dungeon crawl, or it can be, but you're gonna really screw yourself when you come to U3.
Nutty?
Sorry, never played it or read it.
Okay. Right. This is the first AD&D module I ever bought. I had no idea what it was about, apart from the fact that I love the cover. Still do. It's one of my favorite covers. I think it's really dynamic. Little bit of trivia for you. If you go to the wiki page for this, I'm the one who corrected the description of the cover image because it was originally described as a Saracen. It's not. It's a Lockathath. Those who know the adventure will know there's Lockathath on sea serpents. Mm-hmm. And that is precisely that. And I'm the one who corrected it. So yes, pedantry points. When I ran it as a 13-year-old, I had no idea. We just ran it as a dungeon crawl. And it was a fun dungeon crawl. Lots and lots of lizard men. It kicked the players' asses straight away. When I ran it for or that group on Discord a year or so ago. This highlights the problem. If you succeed in the Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh, you have used your brains, because getting on that ship and negotiating with various people and sorting out what's going on requires brains. It requires you to be a thoughtful group who work together. If you go into this adventure with just a slight bit of brain amongst you, you will already know that you don't go in hacking and slashing.
Depends on the party.
It does. But that sort of party probably wouldn't have done particularly well in U1. That's the way U1 works.
Sure enough.
And U2, it's a really well designed lair. The way the lair is put together with the various lizard factions and the composition of how the tribe is put together and the encounters around it all fit very nicely. There's a little bit of politicking in the lair. There's lots of little trinkets and descriptions around that are great. That party who are clever enough to finish U1 won't ever see any of that. And it's a real shame. Real shame. Because they don't need to. It is a diplomatic adventure, and a clever group will realize that and will have it finished within one session. So that's where you make sure they go into do the added encounter where they need to take on the thing that's bothering the lizard men.
Or the dragon.
Both.
Mm-hmm.
Both. You make them do that. Because if they don't do that, they won't have enough XP to take on enough power to take on the third part of the series. That's the only issue in the series. You've got to make sure the party gets something out of this adventure to ensure that they are powerful enough to have a chance in U3. Doesn't quite flow, and this is the weak link in the series. And I hate saying it because it's such a well-written location. The artwork is great. The cover's great. The information is presented in a very easy to understand manner. It just doesn't work. There you go. As a series, I love the entire series.
So that almost comes down to the XP is almost a negative in this one.
Yeah,
remember somebody, I forget who it was earlier, brought up about story beats or whatever, getting experience. This one would almost probably run better that way. That if you successfully...
You have to make sure that the party make the most of the additional encounters that are available.
The other thing...
You have to shoehorn them in.
But you don't have to rush the players from the end of U1 to U2. There can be stuff happening in between. And if you know this is a possible gloss over, if the players are smart, you can have interim scenarios.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I made sure, when I ran it for the group online, I made sure I got the lizard men to persuade them to help them and deal with some of the other encounters, which got them just enough.
Mm-hmm.
And they had completely obliterated U1, and I got them, so they got enough out of U1 by being very thorough and getting it pretty much everything and a few bonuses. So yeah, I gave them a few bonuses in there to make sure they were tough enough for U3.
But I think it's a quibble, because if a group of players can get through this module without a die roll for combat and pure negotiation and role play, I think that's a win. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Yes, they played it beautifully. They played it really well. And I like to keep players on their toes, so I did make it feel like a ticking clock. I did hurry them along.
Mm-hmm.
But they played it well. They played it very well. So fair play to them. And if an adventure can have a peaceful resolution, there's not a problem with the adventure. It just I think there needed to be a bit more in the way of actually getting to the lair and winning the lizard men over. I could have probably modified that a little bit, but hey ho. Right. For the last one,
still gets a thumbs up for me.
Yes, I'm going to give it a thumbs up because it's a vital part of a good series.
Overall series, yeah.
Yeah, but you've just got to be prepared as a DM to.
I wouldn't play it without playing through the series. Like I would never play this alone. It's part of the Saltmarsh series.
Yeah. Right. This is the last one for this stream tonight because we have hit pumpkin hour. I'm going to just quickly do a quick.
It's an exciting one, but it's a hard one. Like you've got to use your brains to get through this one.
Oh yes, and it's a hectic one as well.
When I ran the Saltmarsh series, players never got this far, or rather, they never got far into this one. When I was going through as a player, we nearly beat it. Now it tells you that you're not supposed to fight the saltmarsh. You're supposed to just get the information. I, being the headstrong asshole that I am, decided I was going to fight them. I had a wizard with ample lightning spells, and we almost demoralized them and caused their retreat. The DM was like, "That shouldn't happen," but the dice say it could, But we ended up dying.
Right. I've only run this once, and that was for the online group. And I was absolutely petrified of running it. It's a big adventure. There's a lot of detail in it. There's a lot to take in. And potentially it's a huge party because you haven't just got the party. You've got, if they've played well, you've got a group of town guards. Yeah. Oh, and some others. It's not just them; it's others as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got a group of elite lizard men who come with them. I think it's a dozen lizard men. You're talking a party size of about 25.
Right.
And I was running this theatre of the mind. So it pushed me to my limits. And certainly when the ice storm was dropped on they played it sensibly. They realized that brains were going to have to be used to get in. They weren't going to get in the main entrance. It was very well defended. And they had just enough equipment to get to the bottom of the lair and come in underwater. And yeah, right, Dave, you were clever and the dice were on your side. And they got into the bottom of the lair and they snuck in and they dealt with a few bits and pieces and they happened upon the breeding grounds with all the women and children. And it was a case of, this is where the sea devils are breeding. We've got to put a stop to that. And an ice storm was dropped in the entire room, which basically obliterated all the hatchlings and most of the females. But a few of the females got away to raise the alarm. What then followed was the mother of all chases. And we had one session which was a fight from start to finish. I normally hate those sort of sessions because fighting can be hard work. I like a nice mixture. But that session was superb, absolutely fantastic, because everybody was on edge the whole time. They were trying to flee up through the lair, find their way up through the lair, knowing that they'd got limited air because some of them had only quaffed potions of water breathing, so time was against them. They were being pursued by hordes of Sawajin who were angry, obviously, because most of their females and kids had been killed. And they got themselves to air just in time. And as the Sawajin were about to emerge into the drier area of the lair, they covered the top of the water with oil and lit it, which was just a fantastic move, which obviously pushed the Sawajin back, made them stop and think. Some of the Sawajin were then looping round And as the party sort of moved their way back through the lair, it was hit and run, cat and mouse, all the way through the lair. And I had this big pitched last stand. Loads of the NPCs, loads of lizard men died. A number of the guards died. The party were all down to single-digit hit points, battered and bruised, but the dice were on their side just enough for them to get out of the lair. They ran for their ship with this seething mass of Sawajin coming after them. Or the water was bubbling with Sawajin. There's hundreds of them still left. And they got onto the ship, and I said to them, they had a ship's captain. I said, okay, let's see how well the ship's captain gets this away under pressure. Well, he'll roll an intelligence check. He's under pressure. He rolled exactly what he needed to pass, and they escaped in the nick of time. That session was fantastic. I'm going to say now, I think it's one of my best performances as DM. I loved what the players did, and for that, and I was scared of the module. The module isn't perfect. It's difficult. It's an insane level of challenge. You can only run it for a group who are really going to think about it. But like the rest of the series, it is a thinking series, so it ends the series very well. It wouldn't work. I don't think it would work for it. I think it only works for the purpose of closing this series. I don't think it works in any other way, because you have to have had all the lead up to it.
You have to lead up, yeah,
all the buy-in for it. But the design of the lair, the whole premise of the adventure, the challenge it gives to everybody involved, it's worth doing. I loved it.
Yeah, well, I like the Saltmarsh series as a whole. And I want to respond to Omanel. Omanel says the Sawagin is the correct pronunciation. I'm going with the Kaoland inflection from my world, so I'll say with the G. But I'm not disparaging the hard G. I just prefer the soft G. It's easier to say.
Here's the thing, Amanal, the creator of the Boulette, says it should be pronounced Boulet, and in no language,
incorrect.
In no language is E-double-T-E ever pronounced A. So creators aren't always right. It's like me saying my name is John, but you have to pronounce it Paul. No. Language is there for a reason.
Is that a hard J or a soft J?
So anyway, I'm giving the Final Enemy as the final one for this stream a thumbs up.
Yeah, I'll do the same. It's a great series, but it's still a good part of the series, and yeah, it will challenge your players. So if they've built up to it and they're ready for it, and it's one of those ones that they'll remember beating too if they beat it.
And I hope Dave and the others, and Graham and the others who played through it, I hope you enjoyed it, because it challenged me. I put Boulette, not Boulette, but
Bouliti?
Not Bouliti, no, Boulette. But I hope they enjoyed it as much as I did, because I thoroughly enjoyed running through. And I enjoyed seeing what they did with it and how they approached it. It was good fun. Good fun. Nutty, did you ever see this one at all?
No, we never got to it. And the time period that we were doing it would have been a mess anyway, from your description.
Right. Yeah, it's one for that. There are some very adult moments in there. The party didn't see. They didn't find the sacrificial chamber or anything like that. But there's some darkness in it. There's some proper darkness. You understand why they're known as sea devils if you properly explore it. But thoroughly enjoyed it. So big thumbs up, and that's where we end tonight's stream.
Which is perfect, because I know nothing about the UK series. I haven't played any of them.
Well,
so
I'll have to start. I'm not going to do another one of these sort of ones for another month or so, because I want to get all the other regulars back in to enjoy the chats.
So I have 1 month to play through 7 modules? Okay.
Well, at least it's just UK 2 to 5, UK 2 to 6. Sorry, UK 1's a mid-level one, UK 7's a mid-level one.
I'm probably not going to know any of the other modules except for the Temple of Elemental Evil, so I just won't be back.
Well,
Hopefully you'll be in chat, Nutty.
Unlikely.
Okay, well, fair enough. Yeah, to you too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll see what I'll see what's on.
He's
TV.
giving us the finger behind his avatar.
No, I'm not. I'm laughing, but
no, it's nice to have you on, General Nut. You are one of the OGs of this channel in terms of getting involved in chat and getting involved in games. So it's good to have you on here. Good for everybody in chat to hear your dulcet tones.
yeah, well, I probably come off as an idiot, but that's only half true.
But General Nut is one of the co-conspirators who destroyed Saxius.
His fault.
It's Saxius' own fault. Yes, absolutely.
I just rolled the character. He told me what it was, and I just went with what he told me. That was his downfall. I just overachieved.
Yeah, but as a group, we all played it off each other, didn't we?
Or isn't that what we're supposed to do?
Absolutely. We bounced everything off each other and just went berserk. And poor old Saxius was there going, "Ah!"
It was pretty funny. We did destroy the evil DM, and that's with finger quotes.
Yes.
He's plotting his revenge as we speak.
And so he should. I hope he does. Hope he does get his revenge sometime. Right. As I'm sure everyone in chat knows, Sean Major's Musings has a channel. I'd like to shill it for us.
Yeah, well, it's Mage's Musings, and I play a lot of modules, so come check out my review caps where I actually play through the modules and recap just not the whole thing, but the bit that the players played through and talk about the module sort of piecemeal. So that's my review cap series. I got 4 in the pipe, 2 Clericon ones, which I've been sitting on for 2 months, but they're coming, plus another OSE, and now Night Below is back. We've had a Night Below session after our hiatus, so I've got a Night Below recap returning.
So make sure if you've subscribed to me and haven't subscribed to Mage, go and subscribe to him. If you're here as part of Mage's channel and you haven't subscribed to me,
yes, come on,
go
on over to the old Geek.
I'm offended.
Yeah, stealthing in and just hit that thumbs up for him.
Yeah.
You don't use stealth as a Anyway, thank you, chat, for chiming in tonight. I do hope you've enjoyed our discussion. I've enjoyed reading what you've been saying, even if I haven't. I'm crap at putting things on screen. I really am crap at putting things on screen. I read, I enjoy, but I'm not very good at dumping on the screen. I'm useless. But I do hope you've enjoyed tonight's chat. I have, and I hope Mage and Nutty have too. So thank you, fellas. Thank you, chat. And I'll see you all on Friday for what were we playing? Armies of Death. See you all.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Jan, and the rest.